Welcome back, everyone. This is your host, the DN WhatIf, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku starts leading a villain team? A special shout out to the original creator, Dallas_Skrenderson. Please make sure to show your support by checking out their work from the description. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Izuku Midoriya stared at the large screen in the auditorium, surrounded by not only his class but the rest of the first-year courses, and he had one significant resounding thought. He was going to die. Or commit murder. Either one of those would work just fine for him. The reason? It was the time of year for the annual Heroes vs. Villains competition held at UA. A competition that took place towards the end of the second semester as a replacement for the practical exam for the hero course. This event is known worldwide seeing as UA broadcasts the entire thing. It is an event that produces more viewers than the sports festival. Everyone in the world, for a week, watches the first-year students of UA play heroes versus villains while under the direct command of the chosen students. The chosen students, or rather the unfortunate ones, were chosen randomly by Principal Nizu. However, sitting in the auditorium looking at the screen, Izuku Midoriya realized what a lying bitch UA truly was. Because there was absolutely no way that the names displayed on the screen for the entire first-year class of UA to see were random. There was absolutely no way his childhood bully got the commanding officer position for the heroes while he got the position for the villains. There was absolutely no way the selection was random. He could feel the eyes of his classmates on him. He didn't even need to look to know that Bakugo was drilling holes into him, as if he were the one to choose to go up against him. He was going to completely and undeniably die. Now this year, Principal Nizu spoke out towards the crowd from his position on the stage. The annual competition is going to be a bit different. Typically, the teams from both sides are randomly chosen evenly so that no leader is at a disadvantage from the start. However, due to the events that took place during the first semester, not everything is going to go as we expect. Therefore, this is the first year where students are able to choose what team they would like to be on. You will have a total of 5 minutes to make your decision before one by one you all are asked to come up on this stage and place your name in either the heroes box to be on the hero team or the villains box to be on the villain team. After your decision is made, you cannot change it. Furthermore, you may choose to not participate, but doing so will cause you a failing grade in one of your finals, regardless of the class designation. Also, it is important to note that the winning team of this exercise will not only pass their final with a perfect score, but the students in the hero course will also win an all-exclusive pass to visit any hero agency of their wish. For the students in business, support, and general, if your team were to win, you will also be able to visit any place of your choosing as well. The auditorium had never been so loud before. Now, will both commanding officers please come up here and stand behind your designated box? Katsuki Bakugo immediately got up and trudged his way to the stage, his sneer never leaving his face. Izuku Midoriya, however, well, he was just trying to get his breathing under control before he passed out from anxiety. He shakingly got up from his seat and purposefully kept his gaze to the ground. He could feel the eyes of his friends, and that made him want to cower more than anything. Maybe he should give up and just take the failing grade. The principal could assign another commanding officer and he will just take the hit. However, risking a glance up to where the faculty were standing near the wall by the stage, he met All Might's smile and he knew without a doubt he couldn't go through with that plan. He was so going to die. "Don't faint," he said to himself as he commanded his feet to go up the steps. "Don't faint," he repeated as he pointedly ignored Bakugo's sneering gaze and slowly walked behind his own box. "Don't faint," he once again stated while risking a glance at the auditorium and seeing the gaze of every first year that attends UA on him. "Do not fucking faint," he finally repeated before standing straight up and forcing his arms by his side, both of his fists tightly clenched. "Students, we will convene in 5 minutes. Choose wisely," Principal Nizu announced before jumping off the stool that he was standing on and walking towards the direction where the rest of the staff stood. Midoriya surveyed the crowd and saw that almost his entire class were staring at Bakugo, a decision already made from the glint in their eyes. And God, that hurt. He knew that his class were nothing but heroes. He knew how they wouldn't stray away from their role even if it were just an exercise. But he also had hoped that maybe they would want to be on his team as well. That maybe despite being the villain commander, his classmates would have remembered everything he had done and would put their faith in him. What had hurt the most was knowing from the look in his eyes that Todoroki would not join his team. Yet it would have been nice to have his power on his side, but Todoroki was his absolute best friend. He was the one who stood by his side when both of his arms were broken and he felt like all was lost. He was the one who would fall asleep by the side of his bed some nights when his nightmares got too much for him to handle. The one that despite his stoic personality, ranted and raged about the bullying he endured from Bakugo. He was the one who he had an undeniable crush on. But he was also the one who was staring at Bakugo's side, a decision clearly etched into his very emotionless face. Izuku Midoriya felt betrayed. He shouldn't have. It was simply just a school competition where everyone had the right to choose which team to join. But watching all of his friends not even risk a glance to his side, he had never felt so alone before. Or rather, he had not felt that feeling since his last year at Aldra. He desperately tried to catch someone's eyes, anybody's eyes, but everyone was either clearly ignoring his desperation or staring at Bakugo as if he were their savior. He thought he saw some contemplative looks from students in 1B, but their faces quickly changed before they redirected their gaze once again to the hero side. "I am so going to die," he faintly whispered out, mind so plagued with betrayal and hurt that there was no room for his despair to remain in his inner monologue. After the auditorium got a bit noisy and the staff noticed that the 5 minutes were up, Principal Nizu made his way back onto the stage and up to the stool where he could reach the mic. "All right, students, please one by one come up the stairs and make your decision. Remember, you cannot change your decision, so whatever you choose is final. Let's start with the business course in the front." As predicted, every student from the business course and the rows after chose Bakugo. Not even one person glanced towards Midoriya or even seemed to consider him. When it was time for 1A to choose, he almost wanted to turn away from his empty box in order to prevent the hurt from spreading even more. Ida placed his name first in Bakugo's box, then Uraraka, Azui, and then Todoroki. From the corner of his eye, he knew Todoroki was finally trying to catch his gaze, but Midoriya couldn't care less. Todoroki made his choice and forgiveness was a hard thing for Midoriya. In his days of betrayal and hurt, Midoriya almost didn't see the body that stopped right in front of his box, placing a paper with a name inside. If anything, when he finally did notice, his mouth dropped down in shock when his brain finally registered Momo Yaoyorozu standing right in front of him, a sincere smile plastered on her face. What? Midoriya spoke out for the first time since he stood on the stage. He was imagining things. That was the only and most logical explanation to why Momo Yaoyorozu was standing in front of him, declaring herself to be on his team. Despite his obvious shock, Yaoyorozu just smiled kindly at him before leaning over the box to whisper into his ear. "I believe in you," she stated. "You are the most hard-working person I have ever met and the plans that you come up with are legendary. I know I will never be able to conjure up the plans you do. I believe in you and I know without a doubt you would win by yourself if it came down to it. But I would really like a perfect score on my final, so please don't mind my interruption." Izuku Midoriya knew he liked boys since he was little. So he absolutely did not have a blush on his face once Yaoyorozu leaned back and smiled at him once more. "Oh, yeah, of course, thank you," he quietly responded, making sure the tone of his words conveyed how grateful he was that someone from his class believed in him. Yaoyorozu simply just smiled at him once again, before making her way down the stage and back to her seat. He could feel the murderous rage coming off of Bakugo, which fair, Yaoyorozu was an all-rounder and had an incredible quirk. However, he wouldn't even let the emotion the other was feeling bother him. He had someone on his team. Someone who not only had an amazing power, but was just as smart at executing plans. He suddenly didn't feel so alone anymore. Betrayed still definitely, but alone not so much. If anything, his brain was already coming up with ways for the both of them to win the entire thing. Maybe that is why he almost missed the obnoxiously loud voice announcing themselves as they made their way towards his box. "Oh God, please no," he internally despaired. "Oich," Nito Minoma painstakingly shouted, "it seems as if 1A, with the acceptance of one person, has abandoned their own classmate. Well, dear old Midoriya, do not fret, for I, the phantom thief of 1B, shall assist you in taking down the scum of 1A. You really don't have to, Midoriya pleaded out. He would accept any help he could get, but Monoma? Really? Before he could announce his refusal again, Monoma placed his name in his box and shrieked some nonsense down the stairs as he was making his way back to his seat. Midoriya at that point was just plain confused. Monoma was the only one from 1B to be on his team. Even Kendo went to Bakugo's team. Oh well, Midoriya thought, at least Monoma is well tuned with his quirk and can be a great assist. After all of 1B was seated, he noticed how 1C, the General Studies course, was up next. He saw how the purple-haired boy who he fought at the sports festival, Hitoshi Shinso, stopped next to Aizawa-sensei and Yamada-sensei and exchanged a few words before making his way up the stage with the rest of his class. He also noticed how Shinsu's gaze never wavered from his own. Please, he internally pleaded. Having Shinso on his team would change many things. There were so many plans he could come up with and scenarios where his quirk would be perfect. Please, he pleaded again. Hope was not on his side with Todoroki earlier, but it was when Shinso stopped in front of his box and dropped his name into it. You better not fail, Shinso muttered, before making his retreat down the stage. Typically Midoriya would cower into himself once talked to with the tone that Shinso just spoke to him in, but if anything Midoriya just felt more powered up. He knew Shinso did not like him, but yet, he still went to his team. He would not fail the only 3 members he had on his team out of 100. Well, for now, if the screeching of 10 million was anything to go by. 10 million, Mei Hatsum of the support course shouted, you have very few members on your team. She announced, as if that were something he should be proud of. Yeah, I noticed, he kinda snarked back, the hurt still lingering from earlier. However, before he could feel bad for his tone, Hatsum just grinned widely and dumped her crumpled-up paper with her name in his box. Perfect! She screeched once again. Absolutely perfect. Few people means that the camera will only pick up what the very few people are doing. Which means my babies will be the center of attention. Which means my babies will get recognition. Perfect. Oh, this is just so perfect. Hatsum just mumbled on and on about how perfect his team was for her babies as she too descended the stairs. Midoriya could only just shake his head fondly. He should have known that was what it was about. But if anything, Hatsum's inventions could come very handy to him, so he shouldn't be bothered that he was being used just as Ito was used during the sports festival. 4 is better than 3, I guess, he uttered out. Yeah, well, 95 is better than 4, so I guess you're shit at counting and knowing what's better and what's not, you damn nerd. Bakugo ranted out, finally speaking to Midoriya. Well, actually it would be 94 since you yourself do not count, so I guess it isn't me that's not good with counting. Yup, he was going to be murdered if the explosions coming off the other boy's hands were anything to go by. It was the betrayal, that is why he said what he said. The betrayal was ruining his sweet precious mind. Bakugo's explosions were quickly shut off, which only meant that Aizawa-sensei was off to the side, glaring murderously at Bakugo for making him use his quirk. Serves him right. After a few more minutes of the remaining courses choosing Bakugo, the selection process was finally over. Midoriya thought he should have been more upset by how small his team was compared to the others, but he wasn't. If anything, he was overjoyed. Yaoyorozu was right earlier when she said that he would find a way to win just by himself. There was absolutely no way he would fail. But now he had a team of 5 people. 5 people whose quirks would fit perfectly into his plans. 5 people who now would win with him. Since Bakugo's team is quite large, Nizu spoke out into the mic, Gym Gamma will be your training ground as well as meeting room for this exercise. The next week of classes are cancelled and obviously the week after that is the competition. Although the staff and myself would have liked to have more students on the villains team, you all chose your teams by your own will and therefore, the numbers will stay the same. Commanders, you will have the rulebooks handed out to you tomorrow during homeroom. Midoriya, since your team is quite small, you can meet wherever you like. Just give the teachers a heads up. Midoriya could only nod as Nizu continued. And finally, first years of UA, make not only the teachers, but the world proud. Show everyone why UA is the best, and will remain the best for years to come. Use your quirks. Use your training. Use your intelligence. But most of all, go beyond, plus ultra. After the cheer which everyone contributed to, Bakugo stomped off the stage and out of the auditorium doors with 94 students following him. Midoriya got down from the stage as well, but stayed near the stairs as his 4 teammates walked up to him. They were all looking at him, waiting for directions. They all had glints in their eyes which reminded him of a rabid animal, ready to pounce on their prey. He could only smile back at them with the same feral glint in his eyes. Izuku Midoriya was the sunshine boy of Class 1A. However, never let it not be said that he also had a feral side to him once he was challenged. And with 94 students choosing his bully instead of him, he will take this challenge very seriously. Are you ready? He manically spoke out while walking the opposite directions of the other team towards the side doors. For what? Hatsum asked. Izuku Midoriya only offered them a smirk from over his shoulders before pushing the double doors in front of him open and walking out, his team following closely behind. He finally stopped in front of the support department's lab before turning fully around and facing his team once again. He noticed the excitement piling up in Hatsum and the confused look given to him by the other 3 hero students. We are going to win this. He spoke out quietly, the feral grin from earlier creeping steadily back onto his face. We are not only going to win, we are going to have a perfect win. By the end of this, all those students will regret not picking our team. One by one, every member of his team shared the same feral grin as he, before he turned around and walked straight into the lab and towards Hatsum's workspace. After all, when challenged and betrayed, Izuku Midoriya always found a way to win. Nizu, do you really think the size of young Midoriya's team is alright? All Might announced, making his way into the staff room. Almost every first-year teacher was present. The only presence missing was Power Loader Sensei since he was responsible for overlooking Midoriya's team in the support lab. Oh yes, Nizu responded, seeming happier than he had in a while. From within the sleeping bag on the couch, Shota Aizawa just watched the interaction with narrowed eyes. Sir, with all due respect, young Midoriya is going up against 95 students. Doesn't that seem a bit unfair to you? All Might once again put his input in. Do you not believe in the problem child? Aizawa spoke up for the first time, still with narrowed eyes, slowly getting up to a sitting position on the couch, body still comfortably inside the hideous yellow sleeping bag. No. All Might responded loudly. I believe in young Midoriya to the fullest. However, it's 5 against 95. That is hardly fair. What's hardly fair is Midoriya's favorite teacher not believing in him, Aizawa snarked back, almost as rude as the barking Pomeranian would have. All Might just stood from his position in the room, with his mouth failing open and closed at a loss for words. Aizawa should have felt bad, but he didn't. He believed in his problem child. Plus his adoptive son, Hitoshi, chose to be on the problem child's team after making sure he wouldn't be considered a true villain if he were to join Midoriya. He had no other choice but to believe. I think the little listener will be just fine. Hisashi Yamada spoke out, if anything, we all will be able to see how the green bean not only works under pressure, but also at a disadvantage. Yes, that is quite correct. Nizu spoke once again. Oh, to be at such a disadvantage. It truly makes you wonder how Midoriya will overcome this obstacle. I believe we will finally get to watch the mind of a truly remarkable student in 2 weeks' time. Oh, I just can't wait. If Nizu's tail wagged, it would be swinging back and forth with glee. Heaven help us all, Aizawa thought, before trying to go back down in a supine position and close his eyes. However, the small dad coming from the entrance of the staff room made him immediately sit back up. Sure enough, Hitoshi was shyly standing by the front, wanting only his dad's attention but instead, having every pair of eyes in the staff room's attention. For fuck's sake, Shinso internally berated himself. Nosy fuckers. Toshi? Yamada responded instead of Aizawa, is everything alright? It took about 5 seconds for Shinso to respond, seeing as he was trying to get his breathing under control from all the eyes of the teachers present staring at him. Oh yeah, Papa, everything is fine. Well, Midoriya's team, we wanted to ask what objects we were allowed to use. Like, are we all able to use guns and knives? If Shinso didn't have the attention of every member of the staff room before, he surely did now. Knives. All Might spluttered. Guns. Snipe shouted. Is your team being naughty? Midnight smirked out, Shinso refusing to admit he blushed. Oh, for fuck's sake, Aizawa muttered. And why do you ask? Nizu responded instead of Yamada, his beady eyes already seeming overjoyed. The rule books will be handed out tomorrow with all the information available. Well, Shinso quietly uttered out, we wanted to get started right away with forming plans, and Midoriya, you see he wanted to know what was alright to use now so he wouldn't waste his time crafting useless plans tonight. I see, Nizu responded almost proudly, well since you asked, the rules of what is allowed are simple. The hero team can only use what is already included on the hero course's costumes while the other courses on the hero team can use whatever they want but it has to be approved first. So for instance, Bakugo can still use his gauntlet since it's a part of his costume but nothing else, while members of the support course on his team can use any support item of their choosing, it just needs to be approved beforehand. As for the villain team, you can use whatever you like. You do have hero course students on your team but since it is the villain team, the rules of the costumes do not stand. It goes without saying that killing is absolutely not allowed so there should not be any actual bullets in the guns or sharp edges on the knives. However, guns and knives are allowed if the bullets are replaced as well as the edges of the knives. If you were to use them, again the teachers would need to look over the weaponry and make sure the objects will not severely injure or kill. Shinso stayed quiet the entire time taking it all in, doing his best to remember everything when he had to report back to Midoriya. So if we were to use guns, Shinso retorted, and let's say replace the bullets with rubber pellets or paintballs, how would you know for certain if the opposing team is out or not? Oh well, that is simple, Nizu cheerfully stated. The cameras that will be watching all interactions have a built-in system, courtesy of Power Loader, that assesses any damage done to a person. The results are not shared with the public that is viewing the games, but instead the information is sent to the teacher's viewing room computer system. If the cameras report that damage was done to significant area of the body and in a real-life scenario would lead to death, then one of the teachers will speak into the earpiece. Every participant is required to have to notify of their status, and then that said student would have to pretend to be killed by not moving until a teacher can come and collect them. I think I understand, Shinso replied. So if we were to use a bomb filled with stick-on color powder, and that said bomb went off and got on several students, the cameras would assess the potential damage done and then the teachers would rule out if the student would have died or not if it were real? Exactly, Nizu announced at the same time that Vlad King yelled bombs. Alright, thank you for the clarification Principal Nizu, Shinso responded while quickly bowing and taking his leave, rushing to discuss his findings with Midoriya. Sir, guns and knives are fine, but bombs? All Might stuttered out, becoming more and more uncomfortable with the images of what was to come. You forget Toshinori, Nizu said, this is a competition yes, but it is also a heroes versus villains competition. You cannot win on either side if you do not play the role to the fullest. I have already arranged for the week after the exercise to be solely dedicated to Hound Dog and the services he provides. This exercise will affect the students, just as it has every year. And we will offer all the services available, just like we have every year. This competition is hard to watch since we know the students and the students know their peers. But that is simply not the case in the outside world. We do this to prepare the students for the evils that are to come once they leave the walls of UA. And the villain team? All Might fired back. What are they supposed to learn? How to survive in spite of setbacks, Nizu responded. Izuku Midoriya knows how to survive as I am sure you already know, but a few members of his team do not. They will have to learn the true strength of how to survive and how to win. Their methods might not be pretty, but it is a competition after all. And with Midoriya leading them, I do believe this year will be the most exciting show. More exciting than the last villain team that won, which was more than 25 years ago. But young Midoriya is a dash. All Might tried but was interrupted. Problem child, Aizawa cut in. He is a problem child but a problem child with the desire to help others. He will take this task seriously because I know that despite being a hero through and through, he wants to prove himself more than anything. Say All Might, shouldn't you know your favorite student more than me? Shota Yamada quietly admonished, but Aizawa did not care one bit if his words hurt the older hero. Call him salty that Midoriya liked the big buffoon more than him if you'd like, but no one will underestimate his hard-working self-sacrificing problem child in front of him. Midoriya will be fine, Aizawa continued. But, well, All Might, seeing as you do not know your favorite students, I guess I'll have to enlighten you. Now young Aiza All Might tried again, but was once more interrupted. Problem child will be fine because he was challenged. In all of the training given to him, he did the best when an impossible challenge was right in front of him. He will win not because he is a hero, but because he is a problem child who hates being underestimated. I think it's about time you stopped underestimating him as well. With those words, Aizawa just flopped back down on the couch and closed his eyes, embracing the sweet relief of sleep. All of the staff just stared at his sleeping form shocked, while Hisashi just looked fondly down at his husband. The grump loved his green-haired student almost as if he were his own son, and even though he would never admit it to himself, it seems as if he would defend the boy even to the number one hero's face. All Might just stared at the wall, cheeks flushed with embarrassment and shame. Oh yes, Nizu once again spoke out to the deathly quiet room. This year will be the most exciting show yet. So are we really going to make bombs? Yaoyorozu asked Midoriya, who was grinning at all four of them with the same maniac gleam in his eyes that appeared after Shinso came back and told them what the principal had said. Yes, we certainly are, he announced, before turning to Hatsum and asking if it were possible. A bomb? Hatsum asked when responding to his request. You want me to make a bomb baby? A baby, one of my babies, as a bomb. A color powder baby bomb? A baby that is supposed to explode on the other team. A baby bomb? Well, yeah, Midoriya, I confirmed, hand coming up to run through his curls behind his head in an act of embarrassment. 10 million, you are a genius? Hatsum yelled before running towards him, kissing him on both cheeks, and then rushing off to her station, muttering, I am going to make the most absolutely amazing jaw-dropping contract-signing color powder baby bomb ever. Midoriya did not blush. However, Yaoyorozu's laughter would say differently. All right, slightly less scum of 1A, what shall I do? Minoma asked, refusing to admit that the golden boy of 1A plans were slightly interesting. Yaoyorozu, can you and Minoma work together with your quirks? Let him copy yours and then teach him how he should create things. If we are able to have 2 creation quirks, the victory will be ours in less than 7 days. Yaoyorozu just politely smiled at him once again, before she started to pull a shrieking Minoma into the corner to start discussing her quirk. And me? Shinso rudely asked. Midoriya just stared at him silently before he too grabbed Shinso and pulled him into the opposite corner. You and I are going to talk? Let go of me, Shinso snapped while pulling his arm from Midoriya's grasp. Okay, I'm sorry I shouldn't have grabbed you. But please, just please, can we talk? Midoriya begged. And why should we? Shinso snapped again. Well, you chose my team. I'm not sure why, but you did, and I want us to win, but I want us to win as one. So please, can we just talk for a bit? Shinso assessed Midoriya for a couple of seconds before he finished the walk to the corner they were heading to, and leaned against the wall with both arms crossed in front of him. Midoriya joined him only a few moments after, placing his body into a similar position. So talk, Shinso demanded after a few moments of tense silence. You wanted to drag me over here to talk, so just get it over with? Right, yeah, Midoriya stuttered. Fuck, I didn't think it through this much, he internally screamed at his idiotic self. He stuttered out once again, I just wanted to ask, why do you hate me? I mean, if you're mad I beat you at the sports festival, I completely get it and all. But just for this exercise, can you just not hate me and then immediately hate me right after? Shinso gaped at Midoriya as if he were a fish out of water. You think I dislike you because you beat me during a competition? Yeah. Midoriya responded, voice quieter than he would have liked. Well, you're wrong, he spoke out. It was a competition, I couldn't care less if I lost or not. Which was a lie, but he would never admit that out loud. I dislike you because you were born with everything I had wanted. You have a strong quirk, friends who like you, probably an amazing home life, and a rival who is the strongest in your class. It's hard for a villain kid like me to like someone who was born with everything. Midoriya kept his gaze towards the floor. I can't tell him, he argued with himself. I can't, he will hate me too. I can't. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't. And he was saying it. You're wrong, you know. I didn't have everything. What? Hitoshi snapped out. I didn't have everything, Midoriya once again said, gaze still directed towards the ground. I didn't get my quirk until the entrance exam. He blatantly ignored the audible inhale Shinso took next to him. I lived almost my entire life quirkless. The activation for my quirk required muscle mass. And since I was a small and lean child, if I had my quirk when I was younger I would have blown off my limbs. I guess my body was just protecting itself from me. Either way, I didn't have any friends growing up. No one would even look at me, and if they did, it was with nothing but pity or disgust. The first friend I made was Uraraka, who I met at the entrance exam. I don't have a good home life. My dad left once my diagnosis came in and my mom blames me for his departure. She never hit or yelled at me, so I guess I can be grateful for that, but she pretends as if I do not exist, which to be honest hurts more. At least if she hit me I would know she knew I was there. And my rival, well, he's more of a bully than anything. I went to school with him when I was younger and let's just say he doesn't like weak people. My friends know how he treated me and yet, they still chose his side. Todoroki, the boy who was supposed to be my best friend, never even considered joining me. He didn't even look at me even if he knew more than anyone how I was treated. So you can dislike me, I can't change that. But I am not perfect and believe me, you don't want my life. Midoriya ignored the silent tears streaming down his face. Shinso was quiet for a few minutes before he said something that shocked the tears right off of Midoriya's face. I am a villain. No the fuck you're not, Midoriya interrupted outraged. Shinso just smiled sadly before continuing, all my life I was told my quirk was villainous. My foster parents muzzled me so that I wouldn't be able to act upon the villainous acts they knew I had planned. Wasn't until my first year of junior high where I was finally adopted into a good home, and even then, it took years for me to even start to ask other people questions. I started to hate people who were born with powerful quirks because they would never understand the prejudices that I faced every day of my life. I guess I judged you before even knowing anything and I'm sorry about that. I just wish I had a more powerful quirk some days. No you don't, Midoriya immediately intervened. What? Shinso asked, confused. Your quirk is the most powerful one I have ever seen, and my favorite hobby is analyzing quirks. It's not flashy, but it is extremely powerful. If anything, it is a quirk you should be nothing but proud of. Quirks aren't villainous, they are just tools. It is the person who commits crimes that make them villainous. And you, Hitoshi Shinso, are no villain. I know you want to become a hero and after this competition is done, I will help you reach your dream. After all, we both felt the same pain. Shinso just stared at him before chuckling a little bit, ignoring the water that was piling up in his eyes. You know what, Midoriya? Call me Hitoshi. After all, I have a feeling I won't be able to get rid of you from now on. Midoriya gave off one of the brightest smiles he had ever seen in his life once he heard that statement, and he lives with present Mike so he was surprised more than anything. Then you can call me Izuku? Midoriya cheered out. And you both can call me Momo, Yaoyorozu interrupted, sheepishly admitting she overheard their conversation. I haven't been told what you have or experienced the same horrors, but I am appalled by the actions that were taken against you. So please know, from this day forward, you will have me standing in your corner. My quirk has been called useless ever since I was little. Monoma also added his input once Yaoyorozu was done speaking, also admitting at the same time that he accidentally overheard the conversation, so I guess it is alright if the most pleasant scum out of 1A and 1C referred to me as Nito. I'm honored, Hitoshi deadpanned, noticing how Izuku and Momo hid their chuckles behind their hands. And you servants can call me Mei, Hatsum shouted from her workstation, already producing a fifth bomb. You respected my babies and therefore, I like you. Hitoshi turned towards Izuku and for the first time since they met, both smiled towards one another. We will win, the purple-haired boy announced. We will take down the scum of the other courses, Nito screeched out. We will work as one to complete our task, Momo added her input. My babies will prevail, Mei shouted from her station. And we will have a flawless victory, Izuku contributed. After all, the scariest people are the ones who have been burned by society. So team, let's show the others why they are glad this is just an exercise. Let's show them the villains we could have become. And let's show them why they were wrong for ever underestimating us. Because after all, Midoriya thought, Principal Nizu did say to go plus ultra. So first things first, Midoriya announced after Mei completed all 500 bombs that were requested. 500. She completed 500 bombs in less than 30 minutes. Midoriya was amazed and also slightly terrified. Do any of you know how to shoot a gun? He stated, completing his earlier sentence. Oh, me. I do. 10 million I do. Me pick me. I'm right here. 10 million pick me. Mei cheered, almost as if she won the lottery or something. Midoriya just smiled fondly and turned his attention to the other 3 members of his team, who were looking at Mei as if she were an anomaly. I'll take that as a no, he chuckled. Mei, he announced, causing the pink-haired girl to break her chanting and stare directly at him. Do you think that maybe for this week, you would be able to spend an hour every day teaching us how to shoot a gun? I think we all know how to pull the trigger, but we mostly would need help with aim. Yes. Mei cheered once again. I will gladly help my servants. Do not even worry. And also, do not fret. I will make babies for each one of you. The same type of gun isn't suited for everyone, so I'll get into customizing and building your own baby right away. Thank you, Momo politely responded, a feeling of warmth swirling in her chest from feeling included. The scum of the support course is going to build my gun? Nito dramatically raged out. Dude, Hitoshi responded, is everyone just a scum to you? Of course, Nito snarled back, for the only people worthy of my praise are the amazing students of Class 1B. So amazing that the letter of your class is B and not A. Which means your class was second best to Class A. So amazing Vlad-sensei got the leftovers after Aizawa-sensei was done choosing the best of the best. Why you disgusting dash, Nito raged, having to be held back by Momo while Izuku just glared at Hitoshi with no heat behind it. Hitoshi, you know damn well the selection was random. And, Nito, please relax, Hitoshi will gladly be called a scum if it means you will be a true teammate to us. No the fuck I won dash. Yes you will, Izuku glared right back, daring for Hitoshi to contradict him. Glaring half-heartedly, Hitoshi took a very deep breath before muttering, yes I will. Alright scum, I forgive you, Nito announced, resuming a calm composure and allowing Momo to sit back and release him. Now listen here, support scum. He tried again, however, Mei was not as nice as Hitoshi. I know for a fact you're not calling me scum. Because if you were calling me scum, you would be calling my baby scum, and if you were to call my baby scum, well you would have just signed your death certificate. Holy fuck, I think she just made me straight, Hitoshi whispered out, staring at Mei who was glaring at Nito while making finger guns and pretending to end his life. Oh fuck, Hitoshi cried out, holding the back of his head that Izuku had just slapped as he approached Mei. Mei, Nito wasn't calling your baby scum. I promise? Izuku tried to reassure the pink-haired girl. You weren't calling my baby scum? Mei asked Nito through narrowed eyes while her quirk was in full effect. Nito went to answer, but he too was slapped behind the head by Izuku and when he went to rage, was met with a withering and terrifying glare. No I guess not. You are not scum. You're welcome. He mumbled out, mimicking Hitoshi and rubbing the back of his head to relieve the pain from being slapped. Thank you servant, Mei responded, going back to building the individual guns. Oh but she can call me a serv dash. Nito, Izuku snapped, successfully silencing the glaring copy quirk user. Children, Izuku muttered under his breath while turning to Momo, who had watched the entire situation with amusement shining in her eyes. Alright Momo, for right now toy guns will have to do until Mei is done crafting our real ones. Which I believe should be by the end of the day today. Izuku only got a small nod from the girl who was now in her own little world. Everyone, please take the gun that Momo is going to make and practice hitting a target. Right now, any target will do. Just do your best to aim and hit it. Sir, yes sir, Hitoshi replied, saluting him. Nito also nodded his head, suddenly seeming interested in the task. Now, Midoriya began, class is almost over and I am sure you guys are tired. Go back to your dorms and practice everything I had told you earlier. We will convene tomorrow after homeroom since that is the last day of our classes for the week. Take a deep breath, we got this? Of course we got this, Nito proudly said. I would not choose to be on a team of losers. All Izuku could do was deadpan and shake his head while Hitoshi snickered at the exasperation Izuku was displaying. Nito was the first to leave, while Hitoshi simply gave a wave and followed quickly behind. Mei was still in her own little world, and from the tired stare that Power Loader was giving her from behind the glass of his office, he knew she would be there almost the entire night. Izuku, Momo kindly asked out, waiting for the boy to stare at her, do you want to walk back to the dorms together? He just smiled and agreed with a nod before running to grab his backpack that was carelessly thrown in the corner earlier. As they made their way back quietly to the 1A dorms, Izuku couldn't help but ask Momo something that had been on his mind since she first placed her name in his bin. Momo? He spoke out, head looking up to greet her eyes. Yeah. She responded, angling her head down a bit so she could hear and see him better. At that point, both of them stopped walking and just stared at each other. Anxiety filled Izuku's body and he fiddled with his straps on his backpack as a way to calm his nerves. He started, I was just wondering why you chose to go with my team. Before Momo could respond, Izuku carried on, gaze now directed down to the bottom of his shoes. I know what you said before, what you said on the podium, but even then, that shouldn't have convinced you to join me. You could have gone with your friends. I wouldn't have blamed you. My own friends didn't go with me. So I guess I was just wondering why you did. Momo remained quiet for a bit, her attention now towards the swaying trees overhead. It was almost as if she was finding the best way to form her answer. You know, Izuku, you were the first one to say that my quirk was useful. His head had immediately snapped up to meet Momo's eyes, but her attention was still directed towards the swaying cherry blossom trees. I have heard all my life that my quirk was powerful and amazing. I had heard how my quirk was perfect for heroics and that I should be lucky that the gods graced me with such a power. I had heard every compliment there could be, but you were the only one that said it was useful. Powerful, yes, but also useful. As if I myself was the power behind the quirk. Which I guess in a way I am. My quirk only works if I understand the composition of what I want to create. I have to know everything to create anything, and yet, you didn't see the power of my quirk first, you just saw me. When I first told you about it, you immediately said how useful it was not because of the power that came from it, but because I am probably the only one smart enough to memorize and understand chemical composition. You made me feel seen for the first time in my life. You made me feel like me, not some girl who was graced with a powerful quirk. I'm honored I was able to make you feel that way, he uttered out, but I just don't see how that correlates to choosing me instead of going with your best friends. Oh, silly me, Momo laughed, I guess I got a little off track. It is because you had said those words to me that I started to watch you more in class. Your drive and desire to win and come out on top inspired me. Everything I did or decided to do, I would ask myself, would Midoriya go about it this way as well? I guess I saw you more as a leader than a classmate. Someone who cared about everyone and simply wanted to help wherever he could. It's true that my friends went with Bakugo. They even thought I was going to as well, but I just couldn't. I most likely should have said beforehand who I was picking, so they wouldn't be upset at me that I chose differently than them, but I just couldn't. I don't care if our team is the villain team. I wouldn't have cared if you were the commander of the hero team as well. I still would have picked you. Because I believe in you and have faith in you. It is no secret to the student body of UA that Izuku Midoriya is a crier, but what he was doing next to Momo was rather excessive. He was going to flood the school straight off the hilltop. Oh my, I am so sorry, Momo tried to calm him down, on the verge of panicking. No, it's fine, Izuku finally responded, after reducing his tears to silent streams down his face. It's just, we haven't even talked that much and you believed in me more than my own friends did. More than my best friend. I guess it just hurts. You mean Todoroki, right? She suggested. I always see guys together. To be honest, I was rather quite shocked when he didn't choose your team. Yeah, he stated. I was shocked as well. Well, not really shocked. Betrayed is the better answer. I see. I'm sorry, Izuku. She kindly stated. It is what it is, he said, before they both started to continue their walk to the dorms. It was a rather peaceful walk, and he couldn't help the small smile that graced his face as they made their way back to the dorm. Nothing could ruin the calmness that overtook his body. You see, Izuku Midoriya was a smart boy. An extremely intelligent boy that understood and dealt with many of life's hardest problems. However, at this moment, he had never felt so stupid before. He should have kept his damn mouth shut earlier. Or his mind. He should have kept whatever shut so that his statement of calmness wouldn't come back to haunt him. Because what he was experiencing now was just plain bullshit. The moment that Momo and him walked into the 1A dorm, the noise that graced the common room came to an abrupt halt. Every one of his classmates were present, but not one uttered a single word. Not even Mina or Denki, who were known to never shut up. The two of them stood by the entrance awkwardly looking around the room, while their classmates looked at them impassively. Midoriya typically never got angry, but at that moment he was fuming. It wasn't his choice to join the villain team. If anything, he was forced into that position. And if anyone should be staring impassively, it should be him. He was the one that stood on that stage earlier in the day while his entire class, except Momo, blatantly chose against him and indirectly clarified that they didn't believe in him. He should be the one to give the cold shoulder, not the other way around. He made a step forward to rant out his feelings, but a hand shot out in front of him, stopping his pursuit. He immediately turned to Momo, ready to argue, but the look on her face caused him to halt. There was understanding etched onto her face, yes, but there was also a hint of anger that laid behind her eyes. She too was angry about her classmates' behavior. She was just approaching it more gracefully. Izuku, she calmly spoke out, slightly smiling at the gasps that escaped from her peers. It was no secret that the heir of the Yaoyorozu family only behaved respectfully towards others. She had never used a first name before. Even Jiro, who was her best friend, was never graced with her first name coming from Momo Yaoyorozu's mouth. Sneaking a peek, she could see the hurt that was present on Jiro's face, but she couldn't find it in herself to care. Her best friend made her choice and she made hers. There was nothing more to it. Izuku, she once again repeated after gaining her composure, remind me again, are we meeting at the same time tomorrow? Izuku was confused because he knew he had just told her the plans 15 minutes prior, but then it suddenly clicked, and he couldn't help the smirk that graced his face. No, Momo. He too ignored the gasps. I said we would meet later in the evening. I need to go visit my mom before I won't be able to talk to her for a while. I know we don't have a lot of time to prepare, but one day won't hurt us and I'll make sure we train harder the day after tomorrow to make up for it. Momo faked understanding, and the entire class was eating it up. Stupid fucking nerd. Bakugo barked out from his position on the couch. Midoriya made sure to bury the hurt that surfaced when he saw Todoroki sitting close to him before he answered. May I assist you with something, Kaken? He sweetly asked, making sure he smiled wider and his eyes became bigger. You know you're going to get your fucking ass kicked. I don't know why you're smiling over there like an idiot. One day of extra training won't do you any fucking good. Bakugo raged out. And here I thought you were going to compliment my devotion. He pouted, making sure to dramatically drop his shoulders into himself. Oh well, I would say good luck and to do your best because your hero will be watching, but we both know All Might will only be paying attention to me the entire time. Was that petty and egotistical? Yes, it was. Did it feel good to see the shock in Bakugo's eyes for once? Yes, it did. You fucking extra, I'll fucking kill you. Bakugo yelled out, jumping up with small explosions coming from his hands, having to be held back by 4 of his classmates. Whoops, did I say that out loud? Izuku dramatically cried out, almost as if he didn't really mean what he said. However, the smile on his face and look in his eye told a different story. Momo was trying to contain her laughter behind her hand and Izuku's friends were looking at him as if he were a different person. And maybe in that moment he was. What can he say? Karma is a bitch. This is unheroic behavior, Midoriya. Ida tried to intervene, arms chopping in their normal robotic way. Good thing for the next 2 weeks I am not supposed to act heroically, huh? Izuku would forever deny the joy that appeared in his chest when the class president was suddenly at a loss for words. He had never spoken back before to him. And he more importantly had never talked to him in the way he just did. He had to reel himself in though. It was not the time to act this way. In a week though, that is when he will let loose. And his classmates will be in for one hell of a surprise. Izuku turned to face Momo before bowing lightly and offering a good night. However, she too said she was going to bed and they both made the movement to head toward the elevator. However, before he got a chance to completely turn, a voice spoke out. Midoriya, he heard from in front of him. He knew it was Todoroki. He didn't even need to lift his head to know. He could recognize that gruff voice anywhere. But the pain in his chest from the betrayal had not subsided, and if he spoke to the dual quirk user now, he would break. And Izuku Midoriya would not break in front of the class. Momo gratefully saw his turmoil and simply brought him into her arms before turning them completely away, and started to walk them both towards the elevator, no words spoken to the class. No words spoken to their respective so-called friends. Once safely behind the elevator doors, Momo released Izuku, who just murmured a quick thanks. After responding with a quick smile, she squeezed his hand one time before leaving the elevator once the doors opened, indicating they had already arrived at her floor. Izuku, she spoke out to him, making sure her body was turned enough so they could talk face to face. I will help you take them down. It's hard when you're being underestimated. It's even harder when you're not being believed in. I'll help you, and like you have been saying since this team was first formed, we will win. Izuku gave her the biggest smile he had in his arsenal, before responding, yes we will, as the elevator doors were closing. He was able to see one last smile before the doors closed completely, and it was just him and his thoughts for the first time since the auditorium. Midoriya made his way to his room, making sure to lock it once inside in case any unwelcome visitors decided to make an appearance later. He had just put down his backpack when he felt his phone vibrating in his pocket. Taking it out, he didn't recognize the number, but he still decided to answer it, too lazy to deal with voicemails if it were an important call. He had suddenly regretted keeping his phone at full volume because the loudest 10 million blasted into his ears the moment he pressed accept. He could hear May ranting and saying something, but he was still recovering from the ringing in his ears. Once he had partially recovered his hearing, he finally interrupted May. May, calm down and tell me what's got you so excited? 10 million, this is the greatest news you will ever hear in your lifetime. I deserve a prize for this news. New materials. Yes, I want new materials tomorrow for this information. I will take them from anywhere. But don't get me rusted materials, I want shiny ones. My babies deserve the best. Oh, and make sure that there are no labels on the materials. I need to declare my company on them. Also make sure that Power Loader doesn't see you bringing them in, he hates my materials. And also dash. May. Izuku interrupted once again. Are you going to tell me first why you deserve to be rewarded, or are you just going to keep the news to yourself? Oh yeah. 10 million, you will never believe what I heard over dinner today. Suddenly, Midoriya was very interested. Okay? What did you hear? Okay, you need background information. So 10 million, I never eat dinner with my class. Like never ever. I always eat it in the support lab because my babies need my full attention. However, today I was forced to leave after I finished the guns. Oh yeah, they are already finished by the way. I need to know if the colors suit you guys tomorrow before I add dash. May. Izuku interrupted a little louder than before. Both intrigued and annoyed. Yes, my bad 10 million. Anyways, after I finished the guns, Power Loader kicked me out of the lab, saying he had plans and couldn't watch me forever tonight. Which is rude but fine. So I had to go back to my dorm and get food there. However, I never eat with my class and never make my presence known in the dorm. Everyone knows I'm always in the lab with Power Loader, and since he is a loner that doesn't do anything, they know that I am always there until super late every day. Which means that they can discuss anything and everything because they know I won't be there to hear it. I mean, this was the first time ever I was sent to the dorms early. A slow grin started to crawl onto Izuku's face as he sat on his bed absorbing the information. And what did you find out? He asked, suddenly extremely proud of his teammate. 10 million, the rude blonde hair boy isn't using any support items during the exercise. What did you just say? Izuku asked for clarification. Because there was no way, absolutely no way that Bakugo was that much of an idiot and so self-absorbed that he wouldn't use the help of the other departments. No, I thought that too. Mei cried out into the phone, but then I stayed and listened to my entire class's conversation for a while and 10 million, they are super duper angry. They said that the angry boy just said that his team doesn't need their useless items and that the hero course's costumes were enough to beat 5 people. I think because there's only 5 of us that my class gave in easily and didn't really fight back. They are more mad that the world won't get to see their inventions but the hero team isn't using support items. Not one. And my class is the only first-year support course. How sure are you about this information? Izuku asked. Is there any way they said this so you can report back to me? No way 10 million. My class knew I wouldn't be there at that time since it was hours before my usual time and even then, I was in the vents since I was bored. No one saw me come in and no one suspected a thing. I will make sure to pretend to come in my normal time in a few hours to throw them off, but there is absolutely no way they could have known I was there. I mean, ever since school started, I haven't even been there at the time when they were discussing this. The full-blown smile on Izuku Midoriya's face would scare the cruelest men away from him. This is excellent. This is such good information. Thank you, Mei, for telling me. Of course 10 million, she cheered. I don't care about the competition between hero courses much but my classmates believe my babies are useless. I get a chance to show them why my babies will always be better than theirs. If anything I should thank you. No need for that, he chuckled. Just get some rest. We have a busy day tomorrow. Agreed, servant. Oh, also I made sure your gun, my baby, was heard on the other line before it cut off due to an explosion. Izuku once again shook his head and chuckled. At least it was never boring talking to Mei. But tomorrow he did have to talk to her about how she was able to get his number. Kaken, you're a fucking idiot, he murmured, before taking out his notebook full with plans and adding more information to it, getting closer and closer to having his plan for his perfect victory. One of us will get our asses kicked, he continued to mumble while writing down notes, but I can assure you, it won't be mine. Toshi, how is the team coming along? Yamada asked his son during breakfast, noticing how the purple-haired boy seemed more awake and alert for the first time ever at this hour of the day. Good, Hitoshi responded, slurping on his cereal as he scrolled through his phone. Well, have you guys come up with any cool plans yet? Yamada tried again, intrigued. Hitoshi just deadpanned over his phone, completely ignoring the question. Zashi, you know you can't ask questions like that, Aizawa muttered, walking out from their shared bedroom and into the kitchen, searching for the sweet relief of caffeine. But shoo, Yamada whined, Toshi hasn't seemed this alive in forever. I'm just curious what plans have they conjured up for him to be acting like this early in the morning. Although that may be true, you will have to wait just like the rest of us, Aizawa muttered, begging the coffee machine to go faster with nothing but his eyes. Hitoshi simply just smirked, attention going back to his device. He was planning on ignoring his father some more, but the conversation he had yesterday with Izuku suddenly arose in his mind. He knew that one conversation would not truly fix how he had treated the boy, but he would do his best from now on to act as he should have from the beginning. However, that didn't change the fact that Izuku still said some rather concerning things, especially about his home life. Hey Dad, Hitoshi called out. If let's say hypothetically, a friend of mine was being neglected by their parents and I told you about it, hypothetically of course, what would you do? Aizawa stared at his son, coffee mug forgotten about, and offered nothing but a grim look. Is this hypothetical friend safe or happy where he is? Aizawa responded, not liking where this conversation was going. Hypothetically, no, Hitoshi retorted, or at least I don't believe so. Aizawa just stared at him again. Hypothetically, of course, Hitoshi announced, feeling as if he had to clarify that for a third time. Well then, I would first ask the friend themselves about the situation, and then go from there. Aizawa finally remarked. Hitoshi offered a small I see, before turning his attention back to his phone, already scrolling through it just as he had before the conversation occurred. Aizawa and Yamada shared a glance with each other over their son's head, a glance that conveyed how that hypothetical conversation was far from over, but one they would let be for now. I have to go, I have a lot to do before class, Hitoshi spoke out while getting up from his position at the table and making his way to put his bowl of cereal into the sink. Like what? Yamada asked, trying to gain any information at all. Zashi, Aizawa groaned, chugging the scalding hot coffee in his mug as if it were juice. Hitoshi just smirked as his parents started to bicker before he went to the front door of their apartment dorm, put on his shoes, and started to make his way to the meeting area that Izuku had texted them to meet earlier that morning. He knew that his new green-haired friend wouldn't appreciate him bringing up the topic of his home life, but Hitoshi understood just how harsh life could be when not even one person was in your corner. He could only hope that soon, Izuku would trust him enough to allow him to tell his parents, without the hypotheticals. As he came closer and closer to the team's meeting point, he could hear bickering from inside of the classroom. Hitoshi just shook his head and did his best to bury the smile that started to grace his face. He wondered, is this what it feels like to have friends? But why not? Nito whined to one overly annoyed green-haired boy. Nito, we have been arguing about this for over 30 minutes. Just accept my answer already. Izuku ranted, becoming more and more agitated the longer Nito disagreed with him. I just don't understand why we can't have code names. The blonde-haired boy ranted back. Oh, May cheerfully added, what code name would you want, blonde servant? I think dumbass would go well for him, but for the sake of this competition let's go with little bitch, Hitoshi announced as he entered the room, already smirking at how red the other boy's face had gotten. You purple dash. Okay, enough. Izuku finally broke. There are 5 of us. Literally just 5. If there were more then maybe, but there's not. So we'll just stick to our actual names for the exercise and that's final. Hitoshi just smirked at Nito while the other boy crossed his arms, refusing to accept the answer but knowing he had to. May was already busy getting out the guns she had made not even 12 hours before, and Momo was just watching the interaction with amusement in her eyes as she typically did. Did you all practice last night with the guns Momo gave you? Izuku asked, wanting to get straight down to business since they did not have much time before homeroom. Yeah, everyone announced, earlier arguments forgotten about. I was able to finally hit my target after a couple of hours before I finally got the hang of it, Hitoshi added. Momo shared a similar scenario while Nito, was being Nito. I hit my target on the first try, he shrieked. As if aiming and firing a gun would be difficult for someone from the superior hero class. You couldn't hit it at all, could you? Hitoshi snarked back at him, already ready for a bickering contest. I swear dash. Okay, no. Guys, we just stopped one fight. Please don't start another. Izuku quickly cut in, already glaring at the purple-haired boy a bit, knowing he was just riling up the other for fun. And from the large grin he got back, he knew that Izuku had caught on. Alright, that's very good. Nito, even if you didn't hit the target right away, that's fine. I just wanted you guys to practice hitting something right in front of you instead of from a distance. Since May has the most experience, she will be the one to carry out the sniper shots. This is more as a last result method in case you get caught, or if one of us is bored and decides to go on a shooting spree. Oh, which reminds me, we need to work on our stealth. Hitoshi, I know the teachers can't help or interfere, but has Aizawa-sensei taught you any tactics that we may be able to use? Hitoshi couldn't help the smirk that appeared on his face. He trains me quite often. Typically it's normal martial arts, but we have gone over some stealth tactics. I know he gave me a book on how to disguise footsteps that I will find when I go home later. I also remember a lot of good tips that I think will be beneficial for us. Perfect. Izuku cheered. After we get our rulebooks during homeroom, I'll put together teams to work together to obtain the objectives. I know it's going to be a lot of work. More work than any of us have experienced. I mean, there's 5 of us doing the job for 50. But if we divide and conquer, we will be just fine. I already have an extremely good plan that I will be adding to and backup plans that will work just as well. The way your brain works amazes me and freaks me out, Hitoshi muttered, turning to slap Nito when the boy elbowed him in the stomach. Actually, that's something I wanted to talk to you guys about, Izuku announced, gaining the attention of all his teammates. My plans, well, the best way to put it is that they are not the best. Not bad in the way that we will fail if we go through with them, but in the way where it could very well traumatize the other team. I don't want you guys to view me differently. Would never in a million years do in real life what I am planning on doing, planning on making you guys do, during the competition. I want to play the role of the villain perfectly because that's what we are supposed to do. But also, I don't think any of you know this, but I almost became a villain. Izuku ignored the eyes that were on him, needing to get through this speech, not able to contain the turmoil any longer. I was in a place in life where I couldn't take the pain anymore. I couldn't take the insults, the bullying, the neglect, the hatred, the pity. I just couldn't take it. Everywhere I turned, someone hated me. I woke up to my mom not being home because she blamed me and hated me for my father leaving. I went to school and dealt with bullies and insults. I would get denied access places because everyone in my neighborhood knew I was quirkless, and I would get pushed around left and right on my way home from the people in my neighborhood, just to return once again to an empty house. It was all too much for me. And I just got so angry that I wanted to make the people that had hurt me hurt too. But I just couldn't. I couldn't go through with it. If I did become a villain, that would have meant that everyone who did me wrong would win. That I would be proving them right. So then, you're scared that we will see you the same way with your plans, Momo asked, feeling nothing but sorrow for the bright-eyed boy she met on the first day of school. I'm scared you will think of me as a monster, Izuku finally admitted. The plans I created for this competition are plans I have already considered years before. And in a way, I'm excited to show the world my plans. I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I do. I want to play the role of the villain perfectly, because I want to show the people who knew me before just how much damage I could have done if I was weaker. I want to scare the other team to the point where they will finally understand how fragile the human mind can be. I want to prove to everyone that although I almost became a villain, I'm training to be a hero. I know I shouldn't go through with half of these plans. I know it's vindictive of me to take my frustrations out on our peers. However, out of 98 students, only 4 chose me. Only you 4 believed in me. I guess, I just want people to understand that anyone, when pushed, has the potential to become their worst self possible. Izuku, after his speech, refused to look up from his gaze on his feet. He knew the looks that the 4 in front of him would be sporting. He knew how crazy and villainous he sounded. But he also knew that if any of them said anything about his plans, he would change it in a heartbeat. Because despite what he believed, he was not a monster. I think, Hitoshi began, Izuku holding his breath, I think you're fucking awesome. He finally concluded. Izuku almost gave himself whiplash from how fast he whipped his head up to stare at his teammates across from him. Where not one of them held the look on their face that he believed they would hold. Not one. Not even Nito. Everyone just looked, understanding. Come again? Izuku asked, needing this to desperately not be a dream. I said you're fucking awesome, Hitoshi repeated, an actual genuine smile on his face. Everyone in this room has been told one way or another that we weren't enough. You with how they attacked your lack of quirk, me with my villainous quirk, Nito with his useless quirk, Momo with how people believed her quirk made her special, and Mei with how her classmates don't believe in her inventions. All of us have experienced similar things, and hey, if we need to wreck some shit to feel better about it, then I don't see why not. If anything, those pompous bitches around the world deserve to know how terrifying someone can be when treated a certain way. Now it was Izuku's turn to remain speechless. There was just no way this was real. He died. He was dead. That was the only plausible explanation. The only explanation as to why, after sharing his deepest and darkest feelings, all of his teammates, even Nito, were looking at him and smiling, seeming even more excited for the competition. You're not a monster 10 million, Mei stated. Not good with feelings, but knowing if it were coming from her, Izuku would understand the severity of her statement. And from the immediate tears that she saw pile in his eyes, she knew she had made the right choice. You're absolutely not a monster, Momo also added her input. If anything, I am now more in awe of your determination to remain good, even with all that you have been through. It is true that Class 1A is filled with scum, Nito added as well. But out of everyone in that class, you are the one who I dislike the least. And this does not change that. If anything, I may start to actually like you a bit more, which would have been believable if Nito didn't gag with that statement. It just proves that you are not all smiles and actually have a backbone. You guys, Izuku cried out, no longer able to keep the tears of relief at bay. "Let's fuck some shit up," Hitoshi cheered, becoming slightly uncomfortable with the softness of the moment. "Let's make my babies put on one hell of a show," Mei cheered. "Yeah." The other three joined in. "Oh wait," Izuku suddenly shouted, interrupting the moment. "Mei, by any chance, can you hack?" The smile on her face was absolutely feral. "Oh why yes, 10 million, I certainly can." "Yaoyorozu, problem child, you are late," Aizawa announced the moment his two students walked into class 3 minutes after homeroom had begun. "Are we?" Momo asked in fake shock. "Oh my, please forgive us," she stated, after bowing lightly and moving towards her desk, making sure to ignore everyone's eyes. "Aizawa-sensei," Izuku said, still by the front of the class. "Problem child?" Aizawa asked, too tired to scare the boy with his quirk. "Did you pass out the rulebooks yet?" Aizawa would deny it to anyone that asked, because he certainly did not chuck the rulebook into his problem child's face, a small smirk on his lips when he heard the spluttering from the boy that he had started to become fond of. "You could have at least given me a heads up," Izuku muttered quietly, while making his way to his seat. "What was that?" Aizawa coldly stated, quirk now in full effect. Izuku had never sat in his seat so fast before. After putting eye drops in his eyes, Aizawa went about the daily announcements before he was interrupted once the topic of the competition came to be. Sensei-Ida yelled out, "When is the exact time that the competition starts?" "Every year the broadcast starts at a different time." "Ida, sit down," Aizawa stated, before continuing on to answer his questions. "Well, the time it begins is up to the villain commander." And of course everyone was staring at Izuku. The villain commander has between 12 a.m. to 12 p.m., a total of 12 hours on the first day of competition to determine what time they would like to start. The teachers just need to be aware so we can open the gates of the city and prepare the broadcast. The villain team is let in exactly 1 hour before the hero team, and the broadcast begins when the hero team enters. "Oh, so it's up to the villain team when to start, but the broadcast only begins when the hero team enters," Mina stated. "That is what I just said," Aizawa tiredly responded. "But why doesn't the broadcast start when the villain team enters, and why don't the heroes and villain enter at the same time?" Ida once again yelled out. "Because in a real-life situation, villains will already have the upper hand. They will already be ahead of the heroes and will have more time planning. That is why the villain team gets 1 hour to prepare before the heroes are let in. And broadcasting the villain team setup might give away some plans before the hero team even enters. It would be unfair," Aizawa answered. "What's unfair is having us go up against that damn nerd and the other useless extras on his team," Bakugo raged out from in front of Izuku. "Don't call my teammates useless," Izuku spoke up in a quiet and deathly tone. "Huh?" Bakugo yelled, turning his entire body around in his seat to stare at Izuku. "What the fuck did you just say to me?" "I said," Izuku answered in the same tone, "do not call my teammates useless. I'll call them whatever I damn well please, you piece of shit." Izuku grabbed his pencil that was in his fist hard, containing his rage. He narrowed his eyes at Bakugo and glared at him with the heat of 1,000 suns. He heard movement from around him, most likely his classmates getting nosy about the altercation. However, Izuku took a deep breath to calm himself before releasing his pencil and untensing his body. "Not yet," he reminded himself. "You can't fuck him up yet?" "Someone's in a shitter mood than normal," Izuku cheerfully said, putting as much goddamn sunshine as he could into his tone. "It must be because Kirishima finally saw reason and decided to not waste his precious time on the likes of you." "Calm down," he pleaded with himself. "What the fuck did you just say?" Bakugo raged out, exploding his desk in the process. Izuku simply just smiled at him before tuning out the yelling from around him and opening up his rulebook to go over what is expected of him and his team. He also made sure to note down to apologize to Kirishima later about using his name to get under Bakugo's skin. As he was reading the list of the many objectives his team were responsible to get, he couldn't help but feel the stare that was piercing into the back of his head. He knew that stare. He knew who it belonged to. But he would not look. He wouldn't. Todoroki made his choice, and it wasn't him. Although it wasn't in terms of romance when he did make his choice, it very well could have been. You don't betray your best friend. As he read the rules and regulations more, a sinister feeling settled within him. This is perfect, he thought to himself. Because reading the rules, he could win in two ways. The first way to win was to obtain all the objectives by the end of the 7 days while making sure the villain commander isn't captured. The villain team could be taken out and captured, but for the competition to still be in effect, the villain commander had to remain. So for instance, if all 4 of his teammates were captured, the competition would still be in play since he, the villain commander, was still in the game. The second way to win was through the villain team taking out every single one of the heroes. In order for the competition to come to an end, every student on the hero team, including the hero commander, had to be taken out. The second method, Izuku realized, was one that no one in the past years had tried. Every broadcasted competition he had watched when he was younger always displayed the villain team finding and gaining objectives. They always, every time, went with the first method. Which made sense. The second way was clearly the most difficult and almost impossible route. However, Izuku only saw that as a challenge. And no one challenges him. His team would have a perfect victory. Not one of them will be captured. Every member on the hero team will be eliminated before the time limit of 7 days is up. He and his team will show not only UA, but the world, why you don't underestimate people. But most of all, he will win out of pure spite. Because no one, absolutely no one, challenges Izuku Midoriya. All right, Wonder Boy, Hitoshi announced as he walked into the support course lab. What evil twisted plans did you come up with now? My plans are not evil, Izuku muttered, fingers flying across the keyboard on his laptop as he sat next to Mei. Oh, but you'll agree that they are twisted? The green-haired boy could only offer a smirk over his laptop before zoning back into what he was doing. What are you doing over there? Hitoshi asked, intrigued. However, he was only met with silence. Izuku? He asked again, still not gaining a response from the boy. Mei, what is he doing? He asked instead, recognizing that his new friend was too focused to even hear his question. Mei simply raised her head from her own laptop, eyes filled with confusion before she looked at Hitoshi, then at Izuku, and then as it clicked, she finally was able to answer him. Oh, he's just hacking Nizu, she happily announced, as if it were just normal information. Hitoshi deeply regretted taking a sip of his water while he was waiting for her to answer, because now the entire front of his uniform was soaked with spit. I'm sorry, what? Hitoshi coughed out, body still recovering from shock. Did you just say he is hacking Nizu? Yup. Mei clarified. 10 million got here earlier and explained that he needed help breaking through Principal Nizu's firewall. He is a seasoned hacker like myself, but Nizu's stuff is hardcore. However, 2 great minds is better than 1, and so here we are. He's almost done, so that's why he's so focused right now. Her statement was perfectly timed, because in the next few seconds, Izuku raised both hands above his head and cheered. I'm in, he shouted in glee. Isn't hacking Nizu against the rules? Hitoshi asked, interrupting the green-haired boys and pink-haired girls' celebration. Not really, Izuku smiled at him. The rules say outside help of any kind is prohibited. But we're not using outside help. We are not even using Nizu. All we need is access to the broadcast in order to make sure our plans go off without a hitch. And to do that, we needed to get through Nizu's firewalls. I thought you were just going to hack the hero's comms though? He asked, confused. Well, yes, Izuku replied, but Nizu's system is interconnected. We can't just hack the comms without breaking through the firewalls first. Oh, which reminds me. You need to go to the staff room and be a diversion. What? Hitoshi asked, because he was absolutely not going to do what his friend had just suggested. A diversion, Purple. You need to be a diversion, Mei clarified while nodding her head, almost as if she believed Hitoshi didn't hear him the first time. And what exactly am I supposed to divert for? Well, that's simple. Izuku cheered once again. We have to access the broadcast system before we even get through the gates. If we access it on the day of the competition when we are already in the arena, then that technically would be considered cheating because no outside help is allowed. However, the rules state that any supplies that are brought into the arena have to be checked out by one of the teachers. So I'm going to bury an encrypted file onto my laptop where the teachers won't find it. They can't say we are cheating since we had the computer which had the encrypted files already checked before the competition begun. Which means we aren't using outside help, simply our supplies that were already improved. Okay, now you lost me, Hitoshi replied. What encrypted file? Why is there an encrypted file? Why would we need an encrypted file to begin with? Well, it's less an encrypted file and more of a virus, Izuku sheepishly admitted. You just lost me even more, Hitoshi responded, head beginning to hurt from confusion. Okay, listen up, Purple. May cut in order to take over the hero's comms we need access to the broadcast since it's interconnected just as 10 million mentioned. However, we can't just access the broadcast system since the firewalls Nizu has in place is some seriously difficult stuff to get through. But what we can do is create a virus that bypasses the firewall and implant that into the system so when we want to access the broadcast, it's with the push of a button. So the encrypted file is the virus? Hitoshi asked, slightly catching on but still confused. It's part of it, Izuku nodded. I first needed to get past the firewalls without alerting Nizu in order to implant part of the virus. Seeing as I haven't been kicked out yet, I'm guessing he still doesn't know. The other part of the virus is more like an activation key, if anything. On the day of the competition, when we want to take over the broadcast, all we have to do is access the virus that will be stored on our laptop, and that should trigger the virus stored behind the firewalls, which will temporarily deactivate it and allow us immediate access. Yeah. May cheered. 10 million built the virus that would be stored in Nizu's system last night, and so when he was granted access moments ago, that's when he stored it. He made me responsible for building the activation part of the virus. I needed to see what he had built so my virus would be compatible with his. Wouldn't Nizu be alerted if something was stored in his system though? And why would you need to encrypt the file to begin with? The purple-haired boy asked, already tired of hearing about computer viruses. He won't know that something is in his system until the virus is activated, which it is not right now. Once it is though, he will know, but at that point, we will already be in the competition and he would have no way to stop us from using it. Izuku explained. We need to hide the encrypted file because Power Loader Sensei will be the one to check over any electronics. Just like Snipe Sensei is responsible for checking over our weaponry. Power Loader Sensei knows what a virus activation key looks like. So, in order to trick him that there is nothing there, we have to hide it extremely well. I mean, if we get caught it's no big deal, we will just have to scratch that part of our plan, but we won't get caught. And you're absolutely certain this is not considered cheating? Hitoshi asked, needing the reassurance that his team wasn't going to get disqualified on the first day. It would be if we decided to hack him during the competition, Izuku responded. The rules clearly state that there is to be no outside interference during the 7-day competition. And Nizu's system is outside interference. However, it says nothing about prior to the competition. A technicality? Hitoshi shouted, you're going off of a technicality. It's not really a technicality, Purple Servant, May intervened. The rules say nothing about hacking, only about no outside interference. But if the outside interference was corrupted prior to the competition, it's fair game. That's why we need to corrupt his system now. So it's considered prior to the competition and not during. But how will the teachers know that? Hitoshi asked again, calming down from his earlier outburst. Oh, that's simple. Izuku said, when the virus is activated, all the teachers will get a notification with a description of when the virus was stored into the system as well as highlighted parts of the rules and notes that says we are within them. Okay, Hitoshi responded, but I still don't understand why I need to be a diversion. And suddenly he wished he had never asked. Because now he was staring at not one, but two, almost psychotic grins. Because we need to test it? Izuku said, and we need the teachers to not know of it yet, May finished. We need you to take this jamming key to the staff meeting, which will prevent any communication from being delivered, while we activate the system to make sure the viruses are working. Izuku stated once more. Staff room, Hitoshi stuttered, with pro-heroes. You want me to deceive pro-heroes? He raged. Precisely, Izuku stated. No, I can't, my fathers will be there and they will know something is up. Have Momo or Nito do it, not me. No. Hitoshi will not be the distraction. You have to, Purple, May cried. You're the only one who would have a plausible reason for being there since your parents are on the staff. I will not do it. Please Hitoshi, Izuku begged. No. He responded. Come on Purple please. Mei cried out again. I said no. Please. No. Come on, think of it as a mission. Distract and deceive. Izuku tried. Absolutely fucking not. You have to. Mei shouted. No I don't. He shouted back. Please. No. Pretty please. Take that pretty please and shove it up your ass. I said no. Come on, just agree. Mei once again shouted. I will never in a million years agree to this. He ranted back, standing firm on his decision and knowing he will not ever change his mind. You motherfuckers, Hitoshi raged in his mind, standing right outside of the staff room, waiting to make his reluctant entrance while fiddling with the jamming key in his pocket. Fucking use cats against me again and I'll stab you, he once again raged. Because yes, Izuku did in fact say that if he were to do this, he would buy the boy a 6-month subscription to the cat cafe that was located down the hill by the school. Oh for fuck's sake, he whispered, taking a deep breath, turning the jamming key on, and pushing open the door to the staff meeting where he was immediately met with the eyes of every faculty member. Toshi? Yamada was the first to announce, concern shining in his green eyes. Shinso, is there anything that we can do for you? Nizu asked right after from his position at the head of the table. Well fuck, Hitoshi thought to himself, I didn't actually think what I should say. I just needed, you see well actually Hitoshi was going to drown himself in a water bottle after he left this room. Well actually he will punch Izuku first, then he will down himself in a water bottle. Hitoshi? Aizawa finally spoke up, concern also shining in his eyes. Hitoshi's palms were producing buckets of sweat and his heartbeat was on the verge of being irregular. He was going to pass out. I just wanted to come in and tell you, I just needed to say yup, the water bottle it was after this encounter. That we are to be married, a voice broke out behind him, causing his stuttering to come to an abrupt end. Hitoshi had never turned around so fast in his life before. And sure enough, standing right by the entrance, was no other than Nito. He was going to commit murder. What? Yamada shouted, not being able to control his quirk. What the fuck? Aizawa spoke. What naughty boys you are, Midnight added while All Might was coughing up blood and Vlad King looked pale as a ghost. Nito what the actual fuck, Hitoshi ranted, forgetting about the room of pro-heroes behind him and the task that Izuku had given him. Oh, do you not wish to marry me? What a terrible shame. But understandable given that I am superior to you in every way. Nito responded in his usual self-absorbed way. Your superior ass is about to meet my fucking fist if you keep talking. He ranted back. Kinky, the blonde-haired boy responded with a smirk. However, that smirk was wiped off his face once Hitoshi lunged at him and chased him from the room, leaving some very confused, amused, and horrified staff members in their wake. What the fuck? Aizawa spoke again, looking at Yamada as if what he had witnessed truly occurred. Nizu on the other hand tried his best to contain his amusement. He had of course known that his student was hacking into his system and would do something to distract him while the boy checked to see if it was working. Nizu did have an intelligence quirk after all. However, he did not know how the boy was going to stop the other teachers from figuring it out. Oh, he thought, this year truly will be interesting. Why are you running? Hitoshi shouted, still chasing Nito through the halls. I just want to talk. Izuku help me. Nito shouted as he ran into the support lab and flung himself behind the green-haired boy. Whoa. What's going on? Izuku asked, confused as to why both of his teammates were out of breath. That maniac is going to kill me, Nito shouted. You're damn right. What the fuck? Hitoshi yelled, trying to go around Izuku to reach the boy but was blocked. Okay, what happened? Izuku asked. He had sent Nito over to help Hitoshi once he saw how quickly he was losing his composure from the cameras, but didn't watch what occurred when the boy got there since he was checking to see if the viruses actually worked. That bastard told my parents we are getting married. Hitoshi ranted. Oh my, Momo laughed out in surprise. I was just trying to help. Nito defended. Okay. Izuku interrupted. Nito maybe next time, think of something better. And Hitoshi, I sent Nito over there to help you. I didn't know what he was going to say, so I'm sorry. But you guys distracted the staff long enough for me to check everything to see if it works, so technically it was a mission accomplished. Technically you're about to get your ass kicked, Hitoshi ranted, but everyone in the room noticed how there was no more rage in his body. Anyway, he continued on, did the viruses work? Oh yes, Izuku chuckled, everything is going just as planned. We only have 5 days left, right? Momo asked. Yeah, but everything is going according to our timeline, so it should be alright. However, I need to make an adjustment somewhere. Nito, how long can you store a quirk for? Nito thought, if I want to use it right away, maybe for about 5 minutes. I can copy and store multiple quirks at a time that way. It also allows me to use the quirks continuously. However, I can copy and store a quirk for a total length of 2 weeks, but I won't be able to copy any others and I would only be able to use it once. That is actually perfect, Izuku replied. Why? Nito asked, becoming uncomfortable talking about his quirk. Because for my plans, we would only need one very certain quirk at the very beginning of the exercise to be used once, and all the other quirks I want you to use come from our team where you have access to them. We don't have hero training right now since classes aren't in session for the rest of the week, but yes, I think that may work. What might work? Momo asked instead of Nito, intrigued by Izuku's excitement. The boy looked at all of his teammates before a terrifying grin crept onto his face. Nito! Izuku cheered. Yeah. The boy shakily responded, bravado suddenly forgotten. You are to get injured so that you can see Recovery Girl. I call dibs on smacking the shit out of him, Hitoshi innocently stated right away. What? Nito shouted, silently stepping further away from the boy with the wild look in his eyes. Don't worry, just break your arm or whatever. Momo can even make you something so you don't feel the pain. We just need you to go to Recovery Girl and copy her quirk. Just break my arm or something, he whispered back. Horrified, like that isn't a big deal. I know it's scary, Izuku sheepishly admitted. But the only way to see her outside classes is if you are seriously injured and need her to look after you. We really need her quirk for my first plan to work, so please just break your arm. I'm on a team with crazy people, he muttered again, before slightly nodding his head in agreement before rushing to Momo, demanding the best medicine possible for him to feel no pain at all. 10 million? Mei asked, why do we need Recovery Girl's quirk? Because, Izuku replied, the start of this competition is going to be rather destructive. Hitoshi could only shiver at the gleam in his friend's eyes. Yeah, he thought, the hero team is so fucked. I don't know how to break my arm. Nito cried out in desperation. I'm not Izuku who can break it whenever he wants to. Despite what you may believe, I would actually prefer to not break my limbs, Izuku emotionlessly delivered his response. I can break your arm if you'd like, Hitoshi pitched in, a sinister look overcoming his face. Nito took a huge step back from him. Oh, Mei cried, let me blow it off with one of my babies. Enon, Izuku and Nito shouted at the same time, ignoring the now suddenly defeated girl. Well, I already made the medicine for him to not feel anything. Maybe Izuku should just twist his arm until it does break? Momo stated, trying to soothe the now almost hysterical blonde boy. That's unethical, Hitoshi replied. We need to throw him off the roof of a building. Nito was horrified to see Izuku almost considering it. And my option was shot down, Mei sadly spoke out. No. Nito ranted. No roof of buildings, no machine that blows off my arm, none of it. But we have to do something, Izuku retorted. We really need her quirk. Then, why don't we just tell her we have an emergency, make her come here, I copy and store her quirk, and then we apologize greatly for wasting her time. Izuku could only make an odd face, suddenly ashamed his mind went immediately to violence. I still like the roof idea better, Hitoshi added. Shut your damn mouth, Nito fired back. Oh, and why would I dash? Okay guys, enough. Izuku interrupted. Nito, that's actually a genius idea. Obviously, the boy muttered out, I thought of it. But we still at least need evidence that something big did occur, which would make it believable as to why we need Recovery Girl's assistance, Momo politely stated. Why don't we just use one of Mei's inventions to blow something up and say that Izuku got hurt in the blast? One of us can run to All Might because of course he will freak out that his favorite student is injured, and because he will freak out, he will listen to us when we ask for Recovery Girl instead of asking the standard questions before she's to be contacted. Hitoshi supplied. I'm not his favorite student, Izuku Usjowai muttered. And my hair is blue, Hitoshi fired back. I have to agree with Hitoshi, that's a rather solid plan. Momo added on. Okay, but we need to make it believable. Hitoshi can't lie for shit, as we just saw earlier, Nito added. Momo, you're nice and all, but you can't lie to a teacher, and I would be too dramatic with it, but then that leaves us with the psycho. Mei really shouldn't light up whenever someone calls her crazy. I can do it. Mei cheered. I'll be the most believable out of all of us. Plus no one has seen me freak out, so it will work. Didn't the staff meeting just end? Momo asked. I think now would be the best time for the plan if we were to do it. I fear if we wait any longer, we might catch another teacher other than All Might who may not believe us as much. All right, Mei, Izuku announced while turning to the girl. Take one of your inventions and blow up that table over there. Once that's done, run out to find All Might and put on the best act possible. He then turned to the other three and spoke out once again. I'll get under the table in the meantime while the three of you try your best to look worried. When Recovery Girl comes, Nito, you take her hand to lead her to me. While you're doing that, copy her quirk. Momo, make sure All Might doesn't get too close in order for him to not see what Nito is doing, and Hitoshi, well, just be nice. Everyone nodded their heads determinedly, even Hitoshi, whose only job was to literally just be respectful. Mei, Izuku thought after the table was in pieces and he climbed beneath them. I know you can do it. Mei had been told her entire life that she was just too much. Her mother and father would tell her those words when she would spend all her time in the makeshift lab at her home. On days when she would refuse to eat because she just got too excited to make a baby, her parents muttered those words religiously. It never bothered her though. She was too busy creating new things and experimenting for her to be bothered by them. However, she wasn't an idiot. She knew the looks her classmates gave her weren't looks of awe. She knew how loud she could be and how her chaotic energy could annoy people. She knew she wasn't normal. And she didn't want to be. She loved feeling excitement all the time when a new idea popped in her head. She loved how bouncing around and saying the most outlandish things would cause others to look at her with a sense of caution. She loved being herself, even if others didn't love it with her. She was all right being the only one, because her loving who she is was all she would ever need. Until she met the boy known as Izuku Midoriya during the sports festival. She saw the way he won the obstacle course, the way his mind came up with new plans on the fly when one would fail, the way he destroyed his body like a madman when he tried to save one of his classmates from himself. She saw it all and suddenly was amazed that maybe somebody, just like herself, was out there. Someone who under the surface could be dangerous, but who also refused to be. That's why it was no mistake she joined his team. Of course she did it under the ruse of her babies getting recognition. She would never admit anything but that. But she joined so that she too, for once in her life, could experience someone who understood her. The first time she went off on a rant about her baby's capabilities was when she explained to Izuku all the mechanisms she stored in the bombs and the additional factors she added to his gun. She went on and on talking about everything she included with a large smile and a chaotic look in her eyes. It was only after she took a deep breath did she notice him staring at her, with kind eyes and an even kinder smile. I'm sorry, she muttered out, I know I'm sometimes too much. Actually, Izuku responded, I think you're just enough. Mei would forever deny how good it felt to hear those words. How good it felt to be able to do what she did best, create and destroy, and instead of being looked at in fear, be looked at with the same type of energy. She would deny it, but she didn't have to. She knew that Izuku felt the same as her. The longer they spent together discussing his plans, the more they grew to understand how alike they truly were. And how happy they were that their minds that worked almost the same were no longer alone. So she would march right up to All Might, and put on one hell of a show. Because she was Mei Hatsum, CEO of Hatsum Industries, and there was no one, absolutely no one, more chaotic than her. All Might, Mei yelled out, the moment she saw the teacher walking the halls alone. Young Hatsum? All Might asked, shocked, not because of a student calling out to him, but because of the large tears that spilled from her eyes. All Might, we need help. Hatsum cried out, I was making a baby for the competition. And Izuku, well, Izuku, he told me we weren't allowed to use actual explosives, but I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I swear, I swear, I swear, I swear. What happened, young Hatsum? All Might once again asked, beginning to become increasingly panicked due to the state the student was in and the name of who was injured. I finished one of my babies. Mei continued to sob while telling her story. I had just finished it. I put it on the table for a second, only a second, for a second. Izuku had just told me we weren't supposed to use explosives. I didn't know. He went to pick it up and I couldn't stop him in time. All Might, I couldn't stop him in time. Is young Midoriya all right? All Might stuttered out, watching his student become more and more frantic. However, Mei was not quite done with her show. All Might, I'm going to get expelled. I didn't know, I swear. It was the tiniest bit of explosives, but I had just finished it. It wasn't ready to be touched. I can't be expelled. I can't. My babies will be homeless. I'll never be able to create more. I'll have to become a villain to continue to create them. I don't want to, but All Might, that's the only way. I guess I can become more of a good villain, but it's all ruined. I didn't know, and now my life is over. It's over. And oh God, Izuku. Mei was hysterical. Tears streaming down her face and snot falling from her nose. All Might was panicked. Hands shaking and chest tightening. Now young Hatsum, it was just an accident. You just told me you didn't know and it wasn't ready to be touched. That isn't your fault. There's no need to begin plans on becoming a villain. And wouldn't that be terrifying, he thought. Now tell me, is young Midoriya alive? Yes, he's alive. Mei shouted, but 10 million is hurt. He's really hurt. He's trapped under the rubble. We need recovery girl. Momo and the blonde servant are getting him out, but he's hurt. All Might. The moment it happened, I ran to get a teacher. You were the first one I was able to find. Which was a lie. She had actually ran past 7 before him, but he didn't need to know that. Okay, All Might stated, getting his breathing under control. You go back to the support lab and stay with young Midoriya. I'll go grab recovery girl and meet you there. Okay. Mei yelled out, running back to the direction of her lab with tears still streaming down her face. All Might immediately changed his route in order to hunt down recovery girl. As Mei rounded the corner, she came to a halt and dried her eyes with her sleeves. Barely peeking out from her spot, she was able to see All Might head towards the medical bay, where recovery girl's office was located. She couldn't help the smile that was plastered on her face as she leisurely walked back to her lab. Izuku, she thought to herself, I did it. He's coming. Mei shouted as she entered the lab, regrouping with her other classmates. Perfect, she heard from under the rubble, causing a giggle to escape from her. Everyone in their positions. Just as that statement was said, All Might and recovery girl sprang into the classroom as Mei once again forced tears from her eyes. Now, it was Nito's time to shine. Recovery girl over here, let me help you climb over these pieces, they are rather sharp. Typically, the healer would have denied the request, but she was still a bit frantic from how All Might bolted into her office, ranting about how hysterical one of the students was and how Midoriya had gotten hurt. Oh my, okay, yes please, she uttered. Nito could barely contain his grin as he touched her hand, making sure to instantly copy and store her quirk. All Might, Momo spoke out, recognizing how it was her time to act. I think you may want to console Mei, she hasn't been able to stop crying. And as he looked over to the direction of the pink-haired girl, he noticed how tears were still dripping down her face. Young Hatsum, he spoke, it will be all right. Recovery girl is here now and she will be able to heal any injuries that young Midoriya may have. Take a much-needed breath. All right, Mei shakily responded, making sure to hide the smile on her face by turning her head. Thank you for helping us, Hitoshi added from his position by the wall, at least putting in some effort for his role. Tashinori, recovery girl spoke from her position by Izuku, I am confused, Midoriya seems just fine to me. He himself even said he wasn't hurt. What? Mei shouted, interrupting All Might stuttering. He's fine. But I saw him get blasted. He went and then he was buried. Hatsum, recovery girl announced. Did you actually see Midoriya get hurt or hear him tell you that he was in pain? No, why would I? Mei once again shouted. I saw him under there and ran to get a teacher. Young Hatsum, you told me he was extremely hurt, All Might added in, cheeks flushing in embarrassment. And he is. Who wouldn't be extremely hurt if their friend accidentally buried them? I know my feelings would be too. All right, I'm leaving, recovery girl once again announced, and next time make sure I am actually needed before disturbing my afternoon. Yes, I'm so very sorry. Mei shouted, watching the women grumble under her breath as she began chastising All Might when he came to her aid. The moment the two left the room, all 5 of them couldn't help but break out into laughter. Well, Mei, Hitoshi started, I've got to say, your acting skills are on point. Yes, they were actually quite good. Your energy was able to have All Might bypass the standard questions that are usually asked when recovery girl is requested. Momo added. I will say, Nito added as well, your energy was all right. Mei, Izuku stated, waiting for her attention. Once he got it, he couldn't help the genuine smile that crossed his face. You did it, he stated proudly. I did it, Mei repeated. Being chaotic had never felt so good before. I'm sorry I'm late, All Might announced while rushing into his seat, this particular meeting only being for the head of the departments rather than for the faculty. And why are you late? Aizawa grumpily asked, wanting to get through how the foundational heroic department was faring so he could get some sleep. There was an incident that happened with young Midoriya and young Hatsum that needed my attention. He answered. Oh. Power loader cut in, what happened with Hatsum? Well, apparently she accidentally made a bomb with explosives when she didn't know she wasn't supposed to, and when young Midoriya picked it up too early, it exploded and he became trapped under the rubble. Everyone is fine and recovery girl even said he wasn't injured. All the department heads looked worried and relieved, except for Power Loader, he looked confused. That doesn't make sense, the man replied. And why not? Yamada asked. Because Midoriya told Hatsum that explosives weren't to be used a couple of days ago. She even had me remove them from the lab so she wouldn't accidentally use them. And you were there for this conversation? Midnight asked. Seeing as I had to calm down a distraught girl, yes, I was present. But then why would she lie? All Might asked. What happened when you guys went to check on Midoriya? Yamada cut in again, trying to gain any information about their plans. Well, nothing really. She checked in on him, told him he was fine, and we left. Nothing really happened. Interesting, Nizu cut in, eyes gleaming with almost too much joy. Interesting indeed, Aizawa agreed, staring down Nizu and not liking the clear excitement one bit. Fucking problem children, he muttered, already knowing this year was going to give him one hell of a headache. Izuku knew hoping that Bakugo would leave him alone until the day of the competition was a pipe dream. He should have been more careful. But it was the last free day until the competition began. He didn't think he would have had to watch out now since the other boy went 6 days without tormenting him. Sadly, he was wrong. Very wrong. So wrong that the moment he walked into the 1A dorm, the atmosphere almost made him immediately turn around and go right back out the doors. If the atmosphere wasn't an indication of something bad happening, it was every member of his class standing by the stairs and elevator, preventing him from taking either route to go to his room. He noticed that Momo was missing, and that worried him even more. Hey guys, Izuku nervously spoke out, not exactly terrified of the upcoming encounter, but extremely anxious of what was to be said. Shut the fuck up, Bakugo immediately raged, honestly taking Izuku by surprise. Bakugo, you said you wouldn't be harsh, Ida cut in right after, arms moving around disapprovingly. You idiots said that, not me, Bakugo spat harshly back at the class president. Okay, well, this has been lovely, Izuku interrupted, but I forgot I'm late to something and I got to go. Before he could even take a step towards the front door after he turned, a blazing hot hand gripped his arm. Let go of me, Kaken. He immediately seethed, his patience drastically decreasing. You think that because you're the villain commander you're better than me, huh? Bakugo replied. News flash, asshole, you're still nothing but a worthless, useless Deku. Let go. Izuku once again spoke, voice coming out harsher and deeper than any of his classmates had ever heard. It's fucking sad to see that you think you have a chance. It's even sadder that we both know everyone who is gonna to watch tomorrow will be rooting for me to win, even your own mother. I said let go. Izuku yelled out, green lighting surrounding his body and a green aura sticking closely to his skin. He turned his body with his fist tightly clenched, ready to strike, when Bakugo's arm was suddenly ripped off of him and said boy was flung across the room and into the wall. At first, Izuku's mind short-circuited, trying to come up with an explanation as to who besides himself had the strength to fling Bakugo like he was nothing. However, taking a closer look at the boy currently embedded into the wall, he noticed ice holding him in place. And when he turned his head slowly, he noticed Todoroki standing slightly in front of him, right hand stretched out with frost covering his fingertips. He said to let go, Todoroki announced, his demeanor much colder and darker than anyone had seen before. Fuck you, you icy hot bastard. Bakugo yelled from his position in the wall, knowing if he were to use his explosions to escape, a teacher would surely hear. Todoroki, no force was to be used. Ida once again shouted, this was supposed to just be a friendly conversation. A friendly conversation that had his entire class corner him while allowing that deranged fuckhead to touch him. A voice spoke from the front door. It clearly seems like it was supposed to be just a friendly conversation. When everyone turned to see who it was that spoke, Izuku could almost cry tears of joy when he saw that familiar purple head of hair. The tears almost did fall out of his eyes when he noticed Nito and Mei standing right behind him, glaring at his classmates as if they were nothing but dirt. Momo was also behind him, hands on her knees and hunched over as she tried to catch her breath. And suddenly it all made sense to Izuku. Momo probably figured out what was going to happen since she left before Izuku, and when she did realize, she immediately ran to gather their other teammates. Izuku would kiss her if the thought of his lips on a girl didn't repulse him. As Hitoshi and Ida started arguing with each other, a small but deep, "Are you alright?" came from beside him. He didn't even have to look to know who it was. That voice was embedded into his soul almost as much as Bakugo was currently embedded into the wall. I'm fine, Izuku replied, realizing this was the first time he spoke with the other boy in a week. However, his words did nothing to stop Todoroki from gently grabbing his arm and cooling off the spot where Bakugo lightly burned him with his right hand. Todoroki, Izuku hesitantly spoke, trying to ignore the way his heart clenched. I thought I told you to call me Shoto, Todoroki once again quietly interrupted. Izuku could only look down at his shoes, too tired and overstimulated to deal with the emotions he was currently feeling. That didn't stop Todoroki from talking though. I know I hurt you, he whispered into the green-haired boy's ear. And if I had time I would explain it to you, but I can't. Not now and especially not here. But I need you to know, even if you hate me right now and don't want to hear it coming from me, I need you to know that I believe without a doubt that you'll kick ass tomorrow. Izuku could only whisper out a tiny cow, refusing to admit how good the proximity of the other boy felt. Todoroki gently removed his right hand from the boy's arm and gently cupped his jaw, moving Izuku's head so emerald green eyes were staring directly into silver and red ones. Because I believe in you, Todoroki gently uttered, before tearing himself away from the boy and moving across the room to stand next to the stairs, where the rest of their classmates were. Izuku looked around to see if anyone had just witnessed what occurred, but everyone's eyes were still fixated on Ida and Hitoshi. Well fuck, he thought, this complicates everything. Still tuning out the argument, Izuku was having a heated conversation with himself. He betrayed you. But he also just helped you. Izuku. He didn't mean those words. But Todoroki never says stuff he doesn't mean. He didn't choose you. But he protected you. 10 million? He shouldn't have said those things to me. But you're glad he did. He doesn't believe in me. But he just said he did. Izuku. He was lying. But what if he wasn't? I can't forgive him. But you love him. Izuku was finally shouted at him, causing the internal argument to come to an abrupt halt. Are you alright? Momo asked, right next to him and inspecting his arm. Oh yeah, I'm good, he sheepishly admitted, not going to even give a hint to the conflicted feelings he felt. However, by the way Momo was looking at him, he knew he didn't even have to utter a word. Now that you are out of La La Land, can we leave? Nito said while making his way over to the pair. I would rather not be in the presence of the 1A scum any longer. 10 million, let me explode him. Mei shouted while also making her way over to them, all the while glaring at Bakugo, who was still trapped by the ice. Hatsum. Ida intervened, ready to give another lecture, but Mei immediately cut him off. She said in a rather uncharacteristic tone, do not even talk to me. I have nothing to say to you people. She cemented the fact that she was extremely unhappy with the dark glare she sent to everyone in the room. It was only natural everyone shivered from that look. It was one none of them had ever seen come from the pink-haired girl who was always filled with excitement. Come on 10 million, she whispered when she reached Izuku, lightly wrapping his arm around her and dragging him to the front. Let's go, you don't need to be here anymore. As the four of them reached Hitoshi and stood behind him, the purple-haired boy now spoke to the entire class instead of just Ida. It's a fucking competition, he seethed while making sure to scan the room and stare at everyone while continuing his speech. I don't understand the hostility that you are showing to him. It was a competition where everyone in this room but him got to choose which team to go to. You all decided to go to the hero side, fucking fine, but don't for 1 second think you have the right to act this way towards a classmate who never even got the fucking chance to choose. And even if he did choose, what right do you have to act this way towards him? What right do you have to behave this way? Who the fuck do you all think you are behaving as if he was some sort of disease that should be avoided? You didn't choose him, but we fucking did. So don't you ever fucking pull this shit on our friend again. Because at this point, we've been better friends to him in less than a week than all of you have since school started. Hitoshi turned around to join his group as they all started to walk out the doors. However, before he crossed the doorstep to leave, he turned his head around one last time and said something that caused all the classmates to widen their eyes and drop their heads in shame. Hitoshi left the 1A dorm with his words plaguing each and every classmate. Some heroes you are. It's okay to cry 10 million, Mei said as she still refused to let go of Izuku, even though he had reassured her that he was all right and that yes, he could walk without help. But I don't need to cry? Izuku responded, confused. Yeah, he was beyond hurt that the people he had known since school started would think that cornering him like that was alright. But he also knew that since Bakugo was at the center of it, the boy probably lied or came up with a good excuse as to why to go through with the plan. He also probably would be crying if Todoroki also went along with the class. But he didn't, and his heart was more at ease because of it. Your class is full of douchebags, Hitoshi announced, still quietly seething from what he had just seen. They are scum. Nito shouted, I have been saying this all along. Yeah, Hitoshi fondly retorted, you were right. Happy? Delighted? Nito proudly stated. Hitoshi couldn't help the snort that escaped from him. Izuku. Momo cut in. Forgive me if I overstep, but you like Todoroki, don't you? I know we talked once before about him being your best friend, but you like him romantically, right? Which apparently was the wrong thing to say in front of his teammates because each and every one of them suddenly stopped walking and turned to him with smirks plastered across their faces. Gosh Momo, throw me to the wolves, why don't you? Yeah, he responded, refusing to acknowledge the blush that coated his cheeks. And how are you feeling now about him, after what happened? Momo asked again, glaring at Hitoshi and Nito as they whispered to one another about their evil genius being smitten. I don't know, Izuku truthfully admitted. When he didn't choose me a week ago, I thought I was angry and hurt enough to never speak to him again. I mean, he hurt me. He didn't even look at me. He chose my bully over me. But tonight reminded me of something. He always does things for a reason. Maybe he had a reason to join the hero team and not mine? I don't really know, and I won't know until I ask him. It hurt and he did betray me. But he also just flung Bakugo into a wall after he touched me for more than 15 seconds. That matters. At least to me it matters. No one had ever helped me before growing up. No one had ever defended me against him. But he straight up flung him into the wall full force. After this tournament, I'll talk to him about the betrayal and everything and where we stand. But for now, at least my mind is less plagued with hurt knowing that despite not choosing me, he still defended me. Oh, Mei cheered, 10 million sounds in love. What? Izuku cried out. No, I'm not. What? How does that even correlate to love? Yup, Hitoshi added, our mastermind is in love. He's almost glowing with it. It's sickening to look at. Your face is sickening to look at, Nito responded, inching slowly away once Hitoshi turned a deathly glare on him. You're dash. Boys, Momo interrupted, shaking her head fondly when she noticed that although Hitoshi stopped talking, his body didn't stop advancing towards Nito and ultimately started chasing him around. Izuku, she stated once she directed her attention back on him, take your time figuring out how you feel. There's no rush. We have a week of fighting ahead of us where you can just let go and let your mind run free. Having that conversation after the competition where both of you stand is a splendid idea. But in all honesty, I think you may not need to have it to know what you mean to each other. I mean, I know we got there late, but the look he was giving Bakugo would have made a lesser man cower in fear. I can tell you're important to him, so just take your time. Yeah, you're right, Izuku replied. Thank you. Momo only offered a kind smile back to him. 10 million if he breaks your heart, Hitoshi will kill him and I'll hide the body. Mei happily announced. Damn right, Hitoshi announced from where he currently had Nito in a headlock. What no? Izuku quickly shot out, horrified. There's no need for that. Alright, we won't do that, Mei said dejectedly. But just know we will be super duper unhappy with him. Alright, Izuku chuckled, that sounds like a plan. Izuku, Hitoshi announced while shoving Nito to the ground and coming towards him. Technically what Bakugo and the others did right now is against the rules. We can report him and essentially win now if that's something you wanted to do. No, he immediately answered, not even noticing how fast the sad looks on the others' faces disappeared and turned to happiness. We will not win the easy way. And even if I wanted to, I will not let our plans and training go to waste. He will be punished. But he will be punished by our hands. By our plans and by our teamwork. He will feel what it's like to be helpless. To be at the mercy of others with no help coming for him. And everyone watching will recognize how words and actions can shape a person. He will not get the easy way out. Not if I have anything to say about it. Fuck yeah. Hitoshi shouted, I knew I liked your demented ass for a reason. 10 million you say the greatest things, Mei cheered. We'll show them what scum they truly are, Nito added. And we will not lose, Momo said with a smile, thanking the gods above for letting her be a part of this team. As all four of his teammates walked off to prepare for the upcoming battle, the green-haired boy came to a halt and took in everything around him. Kaken, Izuku said as he looked up to the night sky. You're about to experience who I could have been if I was any weaker. The boy then rushed to catch up to his group with a smile gracing his face. Izuku is a student in the hero course training to become a pro hero. However, deep inside of him is a broken boy who longs for the justice that was never received. A broken boy that was buried a long time ago so that no one would get hurt. He was the villain commander, and his team would not under any circumstances lose. Because he wasn't only fighting for his justice, but for his teammates' justice as well. And for the first time in his life, he would let the broken boy roam free. Because after all, the most broken people are usually the most dangerous. And some people needed lessons harshly delivered to them. What the actual fuck? Aizawa barked out when he heard his phone going off at 1:30 in the morning. He had just returned from an early patrol and was planning on getting a few hours of sleep. On the first day of the competition, he always takes an early patrol since his normal patrol ends at 5 and the competition regularly starts at 8. Every year, since he was a student and even when he became a teacher, the villain team always starts around 8 or 9 in the morning to allow their team a full night of sleep. So Shota Aizawa takes an early patrol that ends at 1 every single year. He had just gone to bed. He had just closed his eyes when his phone went off. Fucking hell. What? He snapped into the device, not even caring if it woke up his husband sleeping next to him. Good morning, sensei. Izuku cheered happily from the other end. I am just calling to let you know that we are ready and would like to enter the gates. Problem child, Aizawa grumbled out. It's 1:30 in the fucking morning, are you sure? Yes, I am positive, he once again spoke out, too cheerful for how early it was. Alright, meet me by the gates, I'll be there soon. Thanks, sensei. He replied before hanging up. Aizawa really should have felt bad for shoving his husband off the bed as a way to wake him up, But he was too much in a bad mood to. What? Hisashi mumbled. Shota, what's wrong? He sleepily asked from his position on the floor. The fucking problem child wants to start. I need to go open the gates for him and check everything while you need to wake the other teachers and start the initiation of the broadcast. We also need to wake the hero team and send out notifications that the competition is to begin shortly. But it's so early, Hisashi whined. I've noticed, Shota snapped while getting up and getting ready. Problem child, he thought. If you lose this, I'll give you detention for making me wake up this goddamn early. Only my problem child, was the first thing Aizawa thought when he saw the villain team. Izuku was decked out in black cargo pants and dark black combat boots. His pants had dark green lines going up both sides. He was wearing a black leather zip-up combat jacket that had streaks of dark green displayed. Looking at the rest of his team, they all had similar styles but different colors. Mei was wearing pink and black. Hitoshi had purple and black. Momo had red and black. Nito had silver and black. Fucking problem children, he muttered. Good morning, father-in-law, Nito spoke out, not even caring about the harsh smack that was delivered to the back of his head by Hitoshi. I'll kill you, Aizawa grumbled while reaching for his keys and opening up the arena that Power Loader and Cementos had created throughout the week. Once you step foot inside, feel free to set up. Since this year the arena is a Maxicit city, I need to check if the electricity and water supplies are functioning properly as well as if all the cameras are working. The hero team has already been woken up and will get the hour countdown once you do step inside. You will have a countdown, but that will be communicated to you through your comms. If you take them off, you're disqualified. The notification of the competition beginning will be released when you enter the arena. Any questions? God, Aizawa really hated being the one to go over the rules. When will the grading begin? Izuku asked. The moment you enter. All the teachers are already awake and in the private viewing room. We will assess how well your team works together to set up, how well you guys fight and find objectives, and how far you go. It is still a final. Hey Dad, Hitoshi called out. The winning team still gives the speech after to the broadcast, right? Yeah, Aizawa responded. It will be where the teams were chosen. The other team will be in attendance so they and the teachers will hear it in person, but it will be broadcasted so the rest of the world can hear it too. Why? Oh, no reason, he smirked. Just wanted to make sure we could address everyone with our victory speech. All of them could only chuckle while Aizawa closed his eyes and took a deep breath. As soon as the gates were open and Aizawa left to do his inspections, the four of them immediately went to find a base where they could put their stuff before setting up around the city. Hey guys, Izuku announced after they found the perfect spot and were taking out whatever they needed for the first day. After gaining all of their attention, he couldn't help the fond smile that was etched onto his face. Let's win this shit, he stated, his body swarming with exhilaration. And when he heard the cheers coming from the other four, he couldn't help but feel sorry for his bully. He was going to leave a mark. He was going to take everyone down. He was going to make the world remember his performance. But most of all, he was going to win. And as he saw Mei getting out the equipment that was needed for his first plan, he couldn't help the smirk that crawled onto his face. Oh Kaken, he thought, you're in for one hell of a week. Mei, is everything set up? Izuku asked from his place against the wall, looking at the huge screen he had Momo make the moment their base was established. Yes, she happily announced, fingers panning over the keyboard of her laptop almost as fast as the speed of light. And everyone will hear, right? He once again asked. The speakers you had Momo make a while ago are some of the best quality ones I've seen in a while. 10 million. Mei responded, still concentrated. Everyone who is watching the broadcast will have a visual, but the speakers we put throughout the city will only deliver audio to the hero team. That's fine, Izuku stated. The beginning speech is mostly for the audience anyway. He then relaxed his posture even more against the wall, scarred arms loosely crossed in front of his chest as he watched Mei work her magic. 15 minutes until go time, boss man, Hitoshi announced after stepping foot into the room, Nito and Momo following closely behind. Everything is good to go out there? Izuku asked the three of them. He had faith that they would follow his orders, but he still just wanted to make sure. Everything is in position, Hitoshi responded, giving Izuku a sarcastic salute to which he snorted at. Good, he stated, We want the first minutes to be memorable. I just wish we could record the hero team's reaction. Mei pouted out from over her laptop before continuing on with her work. Oh well, my father is recording this competition on our television at home, so I'll make sure to create tapes to send you after this is over, Momo supplied. A goddess of a woman, Hitoshi stated, ignoring the way Nito glared at him. If we want people to hear our message, we have to be convincing, Izuku muttered out. No, Hitoshi replied, we just have to be ourselves. Izuku could only smile back, his nerves slightly calming down but still past his threshold. Don't worry, Izuku, Momo spoke out to him gently, recognizing the panic that was occurring in his mind. We've planned for this. We trained for this. And we have come so far. We will be just fine. Izuku took one last very deep calming breath, before he gave her his signature sunshine smile and pushed himself off of the wall he was against. You're completely right, he started. We will be just fine. Mei, make sure everything is completely ready and good to go since the exam starts in 10 minutes. I'm so glad we pre-recorded the message because if I were to do it now, my nerves would take over. The others could only laugh. The video is already set up and ready to be played, Mei cheered while walking away from her laptop. I'm monitoring the time since I know you want the video to be played the moment all the heroes step foot into the city. It's still sad that the hero team won't be able to watch, only hear, but oh well. All of our cameras that Momo created are all working and already recording around the city. I made sure everything is linked so when this thing starts, all I have to do is push a button. Thank you, Mei, Izuku said, smiling at her, before turning around and addressing the rest of his group. We have 10 minutes left, so we need to be in positions. Mei, stay here and push the button when it's time. Hitoshi, go downtown to the coordinates I gave you earlier and finish setting up the building. Momo, go with Hitoshi and help him finish setting up since it is a lot to do, and Nito is with me. Let's fuck shit up. Hitoshi screamed out, the others soon joining him with their own cheers. As his team started making their way to their designated areas, Izuku suddenly called out to them once again, gaining their attention. I know I've said this a lot this past week, but thank you for choosing me. As if I would follow that walking bomb over your deranged ass, Hitoshi grinned before grabbing Momo softly and showing her which way the direction to the building was. I'll always pick you 10 million. Mei cheered out while doing her last checkovers. You're scum, but they are worse than scum, so I guess I'll choose you every time as well, Nito spoke from his side, before abruptly turning away in order to hide his red face. Right? Izuku smiled before copying Hitoshi and softly dragging Nito behind him and towards their own destination. It's time to tell the world that we are here. Katsuki Bakugo is many things. He is hot-headed, rude, short-tempered, and all around a bitch of a person to be around. But the one thing he is not, is a coward. His name and the word coward were never even spoken of in the same sentence. He had never felt the crippling fear that is the sole factor of a person being branded as a coward. But although he had never felt it before, didn't mean he had never expected not to. Katsuki Bakugo realized that one day he was going to experience something that would turn his world upside down and mess with his emotions to the point where no matter what he said to himself, one foot would not step in front of the other. He knew that there would come a day where someone who was stronger than him would cause fear to crawl its way through his mind and curl around him as if it were always present. He knew it would happen one day and he was prepared for it. He just never thought he would experience it the moment he stepped foot into the makeshift city and a cold voice filled with hatred rung out around them. A voice so loud and menacing students with hearing quirks would slam their hands over their heads to prevent the noise from reaching them. A voice filled with anger and disgust. A voice that belonged to one Izuku Midoriya, the useless quirkless Deku he had known all his life. And when the realization came of who made him feel fear for the very first time, it caused his body to fill with rage. And when he couldn't for the life of him take a step forward, his body rooted to the ground almost as if it had a mind of its own, his rage turned murderous. Because there was no way, absolutely no way, a lowlife like Deku would make his body for the first time in his life feel afraid. There was absolutely no way someone like fucking Deku would make him for the first time in his life feel like a coward. He hadn't even noticed that the rest of his team was having the same problem as him. It didn't even cross his mind that he wasn't the only one struggling with this. And he didn't care. Because the moment his hands got on Deku, hero team or not, he was going to beat his ass. The longer he listened to Deku's speech, the angrier he became. He was angry he had to listen to an idiot who didn't deserve to go to school with him. He was angry his feet wouldn't move despite his best efforts to make them. He was angry that he was feeling like a coward, making himself listen to this speech because his body would not listen to him. But most of all, he was angry that the statement "life is a fickle thing" was what made his body betray him. "I'll fucking kill you, Deku," he seethed out between clenched teeth, noticing the cameras from the rooftop observing him but not giving a single fuck what the world had to say about his statement. He would put up with the bullshit of a speech since his body, and the rest of his teams, would not move. He would listen to it, and the moment he could move, he was going on a manhunt. "You can't hide forever," he seethed again, ready to take down his weak-ass opponent in less than a day. However, in his internal struggle with fear, and with the speech blasting through the city, he had not even noticed two figures in the distance on the roof of a building, one green and one blonde, watching the entire thing with smiles on their faces. Because after all, Izuku Midoriya's first plan had multiple parts to it. "What the actual fuck?" was shouted in the staff viewing room, every one of the teachers staring at the display screen with their jaws dropped to the ground. Power Loader was working on his computer trying to override the broadcast, but it was no use. Instead of there being a visual of the hero team entering the city, like there was 10 seconds ago, there was a visual of 5 students who were dressed in black combat gear, with streaks of color that resembled their hair going up their sides. Green was in the middle slightly ahead of the other 4, with gray and pink flanking his right and purple and red flanking his left. "Life is a fickle thing," was what Green stated, staring directly into the camera as he was the one in the spotlight while the others were behind him, in the darkness. "Nizu, isn't this against the rules?" Yamada shouted, watching the broadcast with a hint of amazement and fear. "It is not." Nizu cheered from his position by the computers. "If everyone were to look at their laptops now, you would see why." And sure enough, the moment the staff looked at their laptops and saw the notification of how the villain team had access, and when they obtained access, everyone's face held even more shock than before. "Fucking problem children," Aizawa mumbled, turning his head down to hide his smile but doing nothing to hide the pride in his eyes. "Whoa whoa wh," Yamada yelled out again. "Is this why our listener interrupted the staff meeting a couple of days ago?" Yamada was asking Aizawa, but it wasn't Aizawa who answered. "Why yes," Nizu stated happily. "I believe a jamming key was used to prevent the notification from appearing." "Unbelievable," Power Loader muttered from his spot, still trying to bypass the system. "Everything I try doesn't work." He shouted out in frustration. "There's no way around it. It's almost as if it's inside the system." "Well, that's because it is," Nizu announced, eyes shining with excitement while looking at the shocked faces of his staff. "Midoriya and I believe with the help of a Hatsum, created a virus and stored it into our system. I'm assuming a part of it is in the system and the other part is in one of their laptops, which would explain why all Hatsum had to do was press a button and our system switched over to them. But if they stored a part of their virus on their laptop, I would have found it when I expected it earlier," Power Loader replied. "Not if it were encrypted," Nizu smiled back. "For fuck's sakes," Aizawa muttered, "you're telling me my problem child built a virus, hacked into UA's system, stored the virus, distracted us so that we didn't receive messages when it was activated, and then encrypted the part of virus which activates it. And then on top of everything, dragged my Jima's problem child into it." "Precisely. His ass is fucking grounded after this," Aizawa grumbled into his capture weapon. "Shota," Yamada squeezed out in laughter. "You can't ground a kid that's not ours." "No, I don't care. Grounded. Detention. Phone taken away. All of it?" "Aizawa, maybe if I talk to Yun Dash, All Might started but was cut off by Aizawa." "Oh. Grounded. End of discussion. But Dash." "No. My, Midnight cut in, interrupting an argument that most likely would have broken out. "Our students have been very naughty during their week of planning. They have done everything expected of them," Nizu replied, voice filled with excitement. The entire staff had their mouths open ready to protest, until the next line of Izuku's speech cut through the entire room. Suddenly, everyone's attention was on the video. Life comes and goes, Izuku stated after his first statement, and if you are lucky enough, life is beautiful. But life can also be horrible. It can be filled with hate and disgust, fear and anger, hatred and regret. Life is a fickle thing, but to kids like us, there is only one predictable route for our life. The entire staff room was staring at the green-haired boy, hearing the emotion behind his words, and understanding that whatever he was about to say came from personal experience. Revenge. Revenge is all we know, all we care about, all we live for, and all we die for. Revenge is what makes us, us. Life is good to those who are special. But to the ones where the light does not shine upon them, life is cruel and unforgiving. The heroes of this world, the heroes that symbolize peace and tranquility, are nothing but bold-faced liars. No hero is in it for the people. No hero is in it to help. If a job doesn't have a paycheck at the end of it, no hero will ever waste their time to save someone in need. And no one ever will. And how do we know this, may you ask? Well, that's very simple. We are the product of what happens when heroes decide to not waste their time. All the staff could do was watch Izuku speak. Watch his emerald green eyes glint in the spotlight, and voice remain cold and deathly calm. It frightened them, but if it frightened pros who were watching, it terrified the civilians. We are what happens when someone gets pushed a little bit too far. The heroes will know the same pain we do. The heroes will experience what it's like to beg for someone to help them. And the heroes will understand what it's like to not have anyone be there. They will know the feeling of desperation. And when they beg us for death because the prospect of living is too much, we will not waste our time. Society calls us villains. They claim we are evil and dangerous, despicable and disgusting. But who made us this way? Who molded us into who we are? It's about time for society to feel the fruits of their labor. Because after all, we were not born villains. If you want to create a villain, then you get to experience your creation. The broadcast ended with Izuku taking a couple steps forwards, raising his right arm which held a stylish dark green gun, and fired off a shot right in the center of the camera, effectively ending the video and transferring it back to the arena, where 95 students on the hero team stood with looks of fear plastered over their faces. "What the fuck?" Snipes spoke out, thankful his mask covered the way his eyes held fear as well. However, before any of the other staff members could add in their input, the viewing camera panned to the two villains on the rooftop a ways away from the hero team, staring directly at them with manic smiles on their faces. And when the green-haired boy took a step back and his body suddenly lit up in green lighting, illuminated by the night sky, all the staff could do was hope that the other students would not be too traumatized by the end of it. And when Izuku brought his arm back all the way behind his head, eyes gleaming with chaos, all the staff could do was watch what would happen. Because in this scenario he was a villain, and he was making sure they experienced the villain that society had created. "Nito, you still have Recovery Girl's quirk, right?" Izuku asked, barely containing the smile that was on his face. "Of course," Nito responded. "But remind me again, why did we have to start this early?" Nito was having a very good time watching the way the hero team's faces changed from happy to terrified the longer the audio went on. He wasn't able to get the best view since he was on the roof of a building, but it was enough to make him feel giddy. Because more than half of them had only gotten an hour or two of sleep. During our hero training, Mr. Aizawa has us scan our entire surroundings before proceeding forward. I saw a couple of them start to scan the buildings, but our recording, as planned, distracted them. If we did this when they were well rested, they would be able to listen and scan, but that is not the case. Also, the darkness allows us to hide easily since the streetlights don't reach up here. "And what's your plan?" Nito asked after taking in the information. "It's time to get destructive," Izuku responded, a terrifying grin sliding onto his face. As Izuku watched the reactions to his last statement on the recording, he quite enjoyed the emotion he was feeling. The hero team was scared of him. They were stuck in their tracks because of him. From the corner of his eye, he saw the broadcast camera refocusing on him and Nito. He knew that they wouldn't get a perfect image of them since it was still dark and their costumes allowed them to blend in. But he also knew the smiles they were sporting would be seen. "Nito," Izuku lightly whispered, only continuing on when the blonde boy looked at him. The hero team is looking quite comfortable standing there, let's fix that. Izuku then took a huge step back, activated his quirk to 1,000,000%, drew his arm back in the direction of the hero team, and yelled at the top of his lungs for everyone to hear. Detroit Smash. The impact caused mass destruction. Members of the hero team flew through the air, crashed into buildings, and were even hit with flying debris. Izuku Midoriya simply just smiled before turning around and making his way down the building, leaving screams of terror and chaos in his wake. All around the world, citizens were watching the competition with their jaws dropped and eyes filled with fear. The beginning speech left millions rattled, but that was nothing compared to what they just had witnessed. Nothing compared to the screams they heard when the smash hit or the way multiple bodies were flung as if they were nothing. Nothing compared to the destruction that was left behind. They're just kids, someone whispered under their breath from the other side of the world. They are strong, they will prevail, was what was answered. Competition or not, the world felt as if they were watching real heroes fight for their life. They're just kids, was whispered under a breath from the opposite side of the country. And look what society has done to them, was what was answered. Because competition or not, the world would never forget what they had just witnessed. But on top of that, the world would come to understand the true power of how far someone can break. They're just kids, was whispered under a breath. So is the villain team, was what was answered. Fuck, Izuku shouted holding his severely destroyed and mangled arm. Holy fucking mother of fucks. This hurts like a fucking fuck. 10 million. Mei shouted once Izuku came into view and sat down on a nearby chair. I'll go get the energy gummies Momo made as a supplement to Recovery Girls. Hold still and let me heal you, Nito grumbled, unhappy and uncomfortable at the way his lips stretched out to place a healing kiss on Izuku's arm. Thanks, Izuku muttered, suddenly extremely exhausted. I knew why you wanted me to copy her healing quirk, but if I somehow lost it, you would be so screwed. I know, Izuku answered, feeling his heartbeat slow down from the pain that was slowly subsiding. I won't use that much power for the rest of the competition. I'll use only what I can control from now on. I just wanted to make an impression. And you did. Mei cheered from her position by the giant screens, looking at the destruction that was caused. It was confirmed that we were able to get rid of 45 students. 45? You're fucking joking? Hitoshi ranted while he and Momo made their way towards them after just entering the room. Nope. Mei happily responded. The good thing is that no one was severely injured, so we didn't get disqualified. It was a good thing we added the padding to several dangerous spots when we were setting up. But as I was saying, I was able to confirm through the students that were escorted out by teachers that almost half of them are gone. You actually are a mad genius, holy fuck, Hitoshi chanted, punching Izuku on his newly and still sore healed arm. Okay, so what's next? Momo asked, viewing everyone with her kind smile and happiness in her eyes. Well, we move on to plan 2, we hit them again at noon. At noon? Momo asked, shocked. Isn't that a bit too bright for us to pull something? Well, yeah, but also no, he replied. We need to get their numbers down fast because whether I like to admit it or not, we need to get out the members who had training for this situation. We mostly got out support, general, and business course students since they didn't know how to act in a situation like that. Now, we need target members from the hero course on his team that could be a bit of a problem in the near future. But will be noticed if we try anything midday, Momo once again stated her worries. Not from a sniper 5 miles away, he answered, a smile back on his face. Every single member of his team turned to the pink-haired girl who by the minute got more and more excited. You mean it, 10 million, you mean it? She chanted, jumping up and down. I can play with my baby. You mean it? Yes, I mean it, he chuckled, while slowly walking towards a room he called dibs on earlier. Now you go and be all excited and I'm going to pass out for a few hours or until my arm stops throbbing. Yes, sir. Hitoshi saluted before running after Mei as she tried to tie down Nito so he could be a practice target. If the hero team was worried about Izuku causing mayhem, they should have also considered the girl with wild eyes and an even wilder personality. Because after all, it takes two to be a chaos duo. Grounded for life, Aizawa shouted while jumping out of his chair and marching right up to the screen, almost as if he could lecture and punish Izuku right there and then. First he had to watch his problem child almost blow up his arm, then he had to overcome the shock of figuring out he took out 45 students in the span of 2 seconds. After that he had to watch the Class 1B kid use a quirk that he would never in a million years considered him having, and on top of everything, he had to watch the support course gremlin prep a gun excitedly. He was so totally grounded. "How in the world does he have my quirk?" Recovery Girl asked shocked while coming back from healing the couple of students who had scraps and cuts from the impact. "Doesn't Monoma need hand-to-hand contact for that?" Power Loader asked, subtlety ignoring his excited student loading a sniper rifle. "Did you come into contact with him lately?" "No, not at dash," Recovery Girl started before a look of realization crossed her eyes. "Tashinori that day with Midoriya and him being hurt, Monoma helped me over the debris. No one could have stopped the laughter coming from Yamada if they tried." "All might you got played," he chuckled, absolutely losing his mind. "Young Midoriya wouldn't," All Might stated, shocked. "Oh, but he did," Yamada wheezed out, unable to get himself under control. "I should be upset," he responded after several minutes of coming down from the embarrassment, "but I'm more impressed." As we all are, Nizo finally pitched in, extremely excited how everything was so far playing out. Midoriya has shown a very cunning side to him. "This competition is just so exciting." "I think you mean exhausting," Aizawa cut in. "If he makes me have any more heart attacks, detention?" "Oh, I thought you were going to ground him," Yamada asked, a sparkle in his eyes. "That too," Aizawa grumbled, "one punishment isn't enough." "His plans are actually quite good," Snipe announced. "I see the reason for them. They are well thought out." "Problem child wants to win," Aizawa responded instead of Nizu. "He doesn't want to cause harm to people, his heart is too good for that, but he wants to win." He was challenged and because of that, his competitive streak came in. "His methods may seem unethical, but when have we known villains to be ethical?" "But he's not a villain," All Might interrupted, automatically trying to defend his favorite student. "He is for this competition," Aizawa answered. Not annoyed by the statement since he too would have automatically defended before thinking. "He's behaving like a villain, and that's the point of the exercise. Real villains wouldn't be as kind as he is being right now. They wouldn't leave or let the heroes recover from an attack. He is still giving them a fighting chance because competition or not, Midoriya is still a hero." All the staff held faces of approval before it was suddenly wiped off with Power Loader's cussing. "She's banned. I do not care. Banned and detention and whatever else I have to give her because what the fuck?" Staring at the screen, Aizawa couldn't help the chuckle as he watched Mei chase around Nito with a machine gun, Hitoshi close on her heels as he yelled for her to aim for the balls. "Problem child," he muttered, "you can win this. But when you do, you're grounded until you graduate." Aizawa did not have a favorite student, but he had a problem child. And no matter what, his problem child would not ever give up. No matter if he was playing the villain right now. Some people needed to face a harsh reality, and if Izuku could be the one to teach that lesson, then so be it. Because competition or not, he was still a hero. "Izuku, wake the FUK up," was screamed out by Nito as he barged into the room and promptly jumped on said boy. Izuku got out, disoriented by the sudden weight on top of him. "What happened?" he once again stated once he got his bearings. He threw his covers off of him, making Nito fall on the floor, jumped up, and was ready to come up with any new plans if something unexpected happened. "You need to save me," Nito pleaded again, gray eyes wild with fear. "Nito, what happened? Did Bakugo make a move? What's going on?" "What's going on is that you gave that freak a machine gun and she has been hunting me down for the better part of 5 hours. Nito ranted, still not bothering to get up from his position on the floor. "Nito," Izuku started coldly, "did you just wake me up for that?" 5 hours, Nito shouted again. "She's supposed to be traumatizing the other team, not me." Izuku could only loudly sigh before making his way out of the room, saddened by the fact his good dream was interrupted. Chaos met him when he entered the room with all the screens of surveillance. Momo was lightly sleeping in the corner. Hitoshi was on his knees bowing to Mei. And Mei, Well, Mei was prancing around the room with her machine gun above her head, yelling about how all should bow to her baby. Mei, Izuki sighed out disapprovingly. 10 million. Mei cheered, please, please let me go out and use my baby. It's taking too long. It's not even 10 yet. I said at noon. But 10 million, Mei pouted. No, we have to wait. And please, stop traumatizing Nito, he is on our team. Please don't stop doing that, it's funny as hell, Hitoshi added in his input. Me shoving my foot up your ass would be funny as hell, Nito fired back, walking closer to the purple-haired boy. I'd like to see you try, Hitoshi replied almost instantly. Izuku could only deeply sigh and close his eyes as Nito suddenly tackled Hitoshi and both boys began wrestling on the floor. Get a room, he muttered under his breath, while going to where Momo is to try and get some more sleep as well. However, before he could get there, a small Izuku was heard from the front of the room. Slightly turning his head around, Izuku was able to see Mei in the front facing his direction with her machine gun laying on the table next to her. That in itself was fine. However, what was not fine was the look on Mei's face. Her eyes were downwards and her shoulders hunched in. Izuku didn't even have to think twice before walking in her direction. What's wrong? He asked her quietly once he reached her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. I don't think I can do this, Mei got out, eyes still facing the ground. Can't do what? He asked, confused. What if I miss the shot 10 million? What if it doesn't even hit anyone and they know and can track us? What if I let you down? My quirk is not good for much. Oh Mei, Izuku lightly whispered before bringing her into a small hug. Do you have any idea how amazing your quirk is? If you miss then that's alright, I can always come up with a new plan. What I can't come up with though, is a new you. A new me? She asked, confused. Yes. There's only one of you. I can always come up with different plans but Mei, you are one of a kind. Even your quirk. You can see from miles away. Do you have any idea how awesome that is? Your quirk alone is allowing us to stay hidden. And your mind is giving us a way to win. Hit it, don't it hit, that doesn't matter. What matters is that you're still here, standing by our side. Mei had tears in her eyes but they would not fall. She was too chaotic to allow them to fall. Instead, a wild smile grew on her face and her energy that had been gone suddenly came back as if it never left. You're damn right I'm still standing by your side. I will hit them all, don't you worry. No one can hide from my quirk. 10 million I will slaughter them all. Yes you will, Izuku slightly smiled, heading back over to Momo once he heard Mei start to mutter to herself about how many babies she can shove in her shirt. Everything will be alright, he whispered to himself as he finally sat down next to Momo and got comfortable. Everything will be alright, he thought as his eyes closed and his mind turned off. Everything would be alright because they had Mei, and Mei was one of a kind. Todoroki watched the shit show that was currently occurring in the so-called battle room, and all he could do was wish he were anywhere but there. Ida was repeatedly yelling about how cruel the beginning was while waving his robotic arms around. Azui was trying to calm down Uraraka, who was distraught because she didn't think Deku could do anything like that. And Bakugo was raging because there was absolutely no way a worthless Deku could come up with something like that. That's fucking it. Bakugo yelled. Send some fucking drones out or whatever shit to try and find him. We can't, Todoroki responded in his usual deadpan voice. What the fuck did you say, you icy hot bastard? I said we can't. Todoroki responded once again in the same tone. And why the fuck not? Because you decided that we didn't need any support items. And seeing that there are no drones attached to any hero students' costumes, you need to figure out another way. The entire battle room immediately came to a halt as every eye turned toward the pair. The hero team, or what was left of it, stared at Todoroki with wide saucer eyes. Astonished that he would even dare to talk back to Bakugo like that. Support items are for incompetent fucks, Bakugo sneered out. Yes, because saying that in a room with several support students and the world watching is the right thing to do, Todoroki once again replied. And let me remind you, the villain team has Hatsum on it. You saw what she did during the sports festival. And I'm not afraid of some stupid pink-haired fuck. Todoroki could only shake his head as he left, deciding to spend his time in another room. You should be, he muttered under his breath. He was on a team with an overconfident hero student whose head was so far shoved up his ass it would be a surprise if he smelt anything but shit. He hated being on the hero team. He hated not having anyone take the villain team seriously even though they knew who was leading it. He hated underestimating people. But there was nothing he could do about it. He made his choice. He knew why he made his choice. Now, he just hoped Izuku could forgive him for the choice he made. You should be, he once again reiterated as he found an empty room and leaned against the wall. Mei Hatsum was a support course prodigy, and when given the green light to go all in, there was nobody, not even a hero student, who could stand in her way. "ITS time," was what was screamed into Izuku's ear the moment it hit 11:30 a.m. "You people have got to stop waking me up like this," he muttered out after sitting up and rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. 10 million, get up and move it. It's time, it's time." "I know, Mei," Izuku spoke out fondly, "but it's not me who has to be on top of the skyscraper in 30 minutes. No, it's me, so you have to get up and help me. There's so much to take." How much?" he asked, confused. "Like our fucking inventory much," Hitoshi interrupted, a gun strapped along his shoulders while both of arms were filled with various kinds of sniper rifles. "Mei, you don't need that much, you only need to take out specific people." "No, I do need that much," Mei protested. 10 million, trust me, I will get down there. Team to 20 like it's nothing. Just let her take them, Momo said. Worst comes to worse, she doesn't use them. Izuku was about to make his refusal known, until he took one look at Mei's face and didn't have the heart to. "Alright," he agreed. "Take as much as you need, but we are going to stay here after we've helped to transport them." "Yes," she screamed, jumping up and down. "Yes, yes, 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 yes. Let's go, servants. It's time to set up." Izuku, once again, could only sigh as he grabbed a couple more sniper rifles and followed Hitoshi out the door. "Only you may," he thought as he noticed Nito's exasperated face once he noticed the stickers alongside the guns. Mei was worried about letting Izuku down, but what she didn't know, or at least didn't understand, was that to Izuku, she could never do anything to let him down. "Only you may," he thought again, after he got to the top of the skyscraper and noticed her setup. "Only you." He chuckled as he noticed her putting on pink zinc across the top of her cheeks. She was a support course prodigy, but now, it was her time to show the world how strong people who were viewed as weird could be. "Banned for 2 months, Power Loader muttered, while effectively banging his head on the table in front of him repeatedly. "They are going wild," Snipe added, after seeing how many guns were surrounding the support course student and how happy she looked. "I blame you, Aizawa," Power Loader grumbled again, while turning his head and glaring at the hero course teacher. "I blame you for letting your student corrupt my kid," he stated while glaring right back. "Shinso is not even corrupted," Power Loader yelled in defense. It was at that moment when Aizawa realized what he said, and quickly buried his face into his scarf to hide the pink blossoming on his cheeks. "Maybe not yet," he said, trying to save himself, "but she will soon." Aizawa fooled Power Loader, but Yamada was far from fooled. If anything, the megawatt smile on his face only proved that he would be teased later for what he said. "Why are there so many guns? Why does she need that many?" Ectoplasm asked. "The problem child allowed it, which means he's letting her go crazy. The other team is doomed," Aizawa answered. "Aizawa, after this," Power Loader started, "you keep your student away from mine. He's a bad influence." "That's rich coming from the teacher of the girl who blows up the support lab every day. If anything, my problem child reels in her bad habits," Aizawa defended. "Hatsum does not have any bad habits. My problem child is not a bad influence." "Okay guys," Yamada cut in, hiding his smile. "Just watch and see what happens." "Zashi, he called problem child a bad influence," Aizawa immediately stated, searching for the go-ahead to continue arguing. "I'm pretty sure he heard it when I said it," Power Loader interrupted. "He sure as hell will hear when I kick your ass to next week if you don't stop talking bad about my geek problem child. Hatsum does not have dash." "All right everyone." Nizu cut in with a fake cheer. As much as he liked the altercation going on between parental figures, he knew he would like what was about to happen within the next minute more. "Now take your seats, it's starting." "Go crazy Hatsum," Power Loader muttered while staring at his student laying on her stomach, ready to fire at any moment. He knew how much she hated being seen as inferior to others. But he also knew how much she loved proving people wrong with her energy. Give them hell, kid. May, do you hear me? Izuku asked over her ear, calm. Loud and clear, 10 million. She cheered back. All right, the hero team should be patrolling around their headquarters like they do every year. The cameras we set up earlier picked up their location. They are huddled outside their building waiting for instructions. You have your hit list, right? Yes, I do. Perfect. Take them out first, and after that, I don't really care who else you get. Go crazy. Oh, 10 million, I was born crazy. After that statement, the world witnessed a bright-eyed and pink-haired girl who laid on top of a building miles away from the other team and rained down paintballs in the shape of bullets. The world would forget the look in her eyes and the way she didn't miss one shot. They would forget how she looked so at ease on top of that building and in that position. What the world would not forget, however, for as long as time allows, was the sound of her chaotic laughter as bullet after bullet released from her guns and onto the world below. Todoroki was the first one to notice that something was wrong. He couldn't understand it. There was no immediate danger around him that he could see. But he could feel it. He felt that something was off. That something was just not right. But no matter how much he surveyed his surroundings or looked on top of buildings, he could not see anything. He knew he wasn't going crazy. He saw several of his classmates make the same look he did once they walked outside for their roles, per Bakugo's request. He knew something was wrong, but even though he knew it, there was absolutely nothing he could do to stop a solid purple pellet hitting him square in the chest and shoving him back a couple of feet. And although his classmates knew something was wrong, there was nothing they could do when the same solid purple pellets hit Denki, Shuji, Jiru, Kendo, Pony, Mineta, Sato, Siro, and Mina square in the chest as well. The world around them was filled with purple as his teammates tried to take cover anywhere that would allow them. Bakugo and a few others never left the building, so a few of them were safe, but still, no one could escape the pellets. It was almost as if there was a lock on target for each and every one of them. He knew a good chunk of them were out of the game already. He even knew he was out before Power Loader's voice rang out through his earpiece. He opted to just lay down on the ground while the world filled with purple for a little while longer. I told you, you should be afraid of her, he whispered out into the world, tuning out the cries of surprise coming from around him. He should have been mad, or even upset he got out so early. He wanted to prove himself to the world. But he had already done that during the sports festival. It wasn't his time to shine right now. Now, it was the boy with sparkly emerald green eyes that made his entire being warm when concentrated on him, and hair greener than the forest trees' time. It was his time to shine, and he would watch it with support in his eyes and a smile on his face. You should have been afraid of her, he whispered out once again. He should have been on the villain team, but he couldn't be. So he would cheer for them once he took a shower and found an available TV. And as Power Loader instructed him to meet a teacher to escort him off the competition field, he couldn't help but think he heard light laughter that flowed with the wind. You should be afraid of all of them, he once again spoke after he stepped foot out of the arena. Bakugo was strong, but Izuku was smart. And after only a couple hours of competition, his almost 100-man team came down to a mere 25, with all his teammates experiencing some sort of trauma. That's why you don't underestimate hurt people, he thought. They know how to face fear with a smile. But they also know how to give it back tenfold. Bakugo, you're so fucked. The hero team was huddled in the battle room after the afternoon of purple, and the only one who was speaking, or rather throwing a tantrum, was Bakugo. Effie, he screamed while kicking chairs out of his way and throwing things off of the tables near him. What the Effie? He screamed again, not caring how the world viewed him at that particular moment. Somebody tell me what the fuck just happened. He raged once more. Bakugo was finishing the details of his patrol routes when he heard the screams and cries of pain from outside. He could only see purple hailing down on his team, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing, he could do to stop it. Midoriya dash, Ida bravely answered, but immediately came to a halt once he noticed Bakugo's raging red eyes placed upon him. Deku, what? Bakugo grunted out after Ida remained silent some more. After clearing his throat and regaining his composure, Ida was able to continue on with his statement. Midoriya must have used Hatsum to shoot us when we were outside. And you just let her get away? Bakugo yelled. None of us could see her. None of us knew where she was. We didn't even know where she could be. He defended. Stop fucking making excuses. Bakugo blew up once more. There's no way that support idiot could do something like this. There's no way any support student could make something that could do this. Now we're out 20 people and Icy Hot, our biggest asset, is out as well. So someone better explain to me how this happened because that pink-haired fuck didn't do this. The room remained dead silent. No one was brave enough to speak until a quiet voice from the back of the room uttered, and if she did? Bakugo, who was still experiencing murderous rage, didn't even know who spoke before stating, then Deku has really gotten so pathetic using the likes of her. The room remained silent once more before Bakugo had enough and started to storm out of the room. Ida, take night patrol, he grumbled before slamming the door shut in his wake. No one even dared to make a noise. Ida surveyed the room and saw the looks on his fellow teammates' faces. There were several emotions plastered on them. Shock, horror, sadness, guilt. He saw every emotion, but there was one thing most noticeable amongst all of them. They all shared the same look in their eyes. A look he knew he harbored as well. They were scared. They weren't afraid of some real-life no-name villain. No, they were afraid of the kid who was classified as the sunshine boy of 1A. They were afraid of someone he considered a friend. Midoriya, how far will you go? He whispered, before following out the same door Bakugo left out of to get ready for his patrol. How could someone like you be so unheroic, he thought as he was fixing his gear of his hero costume and walking towards the front. Midoriya, he thought once more before making his way out of their base and onto the streets illuminated by the stars, I will help you be who you once were. If that boy insults my student and the work my students do one more time, hero student or not, he's not getting shit from us, Power Loader ranted while staring up at the screen and glaring at the explosion boy through his mask. Now my dash, Nizu tried, but was interrupted by an angry protective teacher once more. No principal, he snapped, the boy has gotten too many passes. He's leading the hero team but yet acting like this? He insults my students and their work but yet he wears the costume they made. He called her a pink-haired fuck, yet she was the one who made those nasty-ass gauntlets he's wearing right now. One more word about them. One more word about her, and he will be blacklisted from every support company I can write a letter to. Isn't that a bit extreme? Vlad King asked. Hardly, Power Loader responded. If anything, he's being put on that list right now without my help. You forget, Vlad, the world is watching this. Which means the support companies are watching this. If I'm not happy about the way he's treating my students, the companies will be furious about how he's treating items made to assist. That is a good point, Nizu added in, a look of understanding in his eyes. The support companies use this competition to gauge how the support course students prepared for the exam. It is a way to scope out and offer internships. With what Todoroki said earlier about Bakugo refusing any support items to be made, the companies may not take that lightly to that. They may, as you suggested, already are taking precautions to never take him as a client. That's a bit harsh, All Might added in from his corner, still trying to come to terms with what he has been witnessing. The world is harsh, Aizawa cut in, silently hoping what Power Loader is saying is true due to the explosion user insulting his problem child as well. He's just a kid, All Might tried once more. Jesus All Might, they are all kids. Aizawa snapped. Midoriya, Bakugo, Ida, Hatsum, they are all kids. Get off your high horse and realize not every kid is good. From what we have been witnessing, Bakugo is far worse than we thought, Ida is a hypocrite with a hero complex, and my problem child is releasing his hurt because he never could before. They're all kids. But sometimes, being gentle does not work. So we just allow young Bakugo's career to end before it even starts? Yes, he yelled. Because Bakugo brought this upon himself. He was the one who said he didn't want to use those items, he was the one who disrespected the students whose role is to support in front of the entire world. And he is the one who is showing his true colors on national television. He needs to know the consequences. He needs to know that his actions have unfavorable outcomes. Young Bakugo does not deserve this. And Midoriya does? At this point, Aizawa was standing up from his chair, so angry his quirk was in full effect. The other teachers present were staring between the two with differing expressions of understanding while Yamada was nervously trying to intervene before his husband lunged at the former number 1 hero. Nizu watched on in glee while Power Loader was silently happy he was not the only one who hated the injustices happening to his student. Young Midoriya knows very well that I wish him nothing but the best. All Might tried, but Aizawa was not having it. Does he? Tell me, All Might, does he? If you were to ask me, I would say that he's complacent around you because you're always first to defend someone who was his bully growing up. Young Bakugo was not his bully. Yes, he was. So tell me, Aizawa, if he was as you say he was, how do you know this? Because dipshit, Aizawa raged, my son is on his team. My son is his friend. My son talks to him. My son helps him. My son understands him. And my son came to me when Midoriya told him some things about his unique friendship with that boy. I know it very well. But tell me, All Might, the oh-so-gracious hero, what do you know? I know that your son is a liar. There's no way young Bakugo did what you're saying he did. It was at that moment where Yamada thanked every star above that he was right next to his husband. Because 1 second he was standing next to him, and the next, he was bear hugging him to his chest to prevent him from finishing his lunge towards the previous hero. Do not call our son a liar, Yamada spoke out for the first time, bear hugging his husband harder as he was losing control of his quirk from the anger. All right, boys, that's enough. Break it up or you'll take a nap, Midnight interrupted, while still slightly standing next to her friends since she too wanted to smack All Might for that comment. Everyone sit down and pay attention, Nizu interrupted as well. He still smiled, but there was a hint of anger forming by his eyes, clearly unhappy with what had just occurred. However, from him staring down All Might, it was quite clear who he sided with for the altercation. We're going to miss an amazing moment. He cheered once more, not taking his eyes off the two teachers until they were seated in their respective seats and were looking at the screen. This altercation should be interesting, he smiled again. Oh, how he loved chaos. You two know what to do, right? Izuku's voice echoed through Hitoshi's calm. Yes, sir, he responded while stealthily making his way to his target's location. Look, I don't care what you two do afterwards, so get this done first and then have fun or whatever. My oh my, Izuku, are you telling us to do what I think you're telling us to do? I'm telling you two to not mess this up because then you'll answer to me and you won't like what I'll do. Relax, boss, Hitoshi chuckled, this is going to be a fun one, we won't mess this up. He might not mess it up, I was mostly talking about you. But alright, I believe in you. Have fun watching the show, Hitoshi muttered before focusing more on his surroundings and trying to ignore a certain distraction next to him. So what did he say? The distraction spoke out. To watch you so you don't fuck it up, Hitoshi answered, unable to stop himself. I doubt that's what he said, Nito spoke up while silently following Hitoshi and mimicking him from behind, not very well versed in stealth tactics. Don't know why you doubt it, between the both of us I am more dependable. Like fuck you are. See, there's no room for childish behavior here. Let the adults handle this. I'm older than you, fucker. By 2 months that's nothing. And I would have never known. You fucking dash. What did I say? Izuku interrupted the argument, not impressed by what he was hearing. You said to not mess it up and we won't. Chill, boss man, we got this. Hitoshi answered, trying to stop the warmth from his chest from spreading onto his face. So he liked arguing with the other boy and sue him. Seeing him all worked up was hot. I won't mess it up, he might. Nito now spoke to Izuku directly through his own calm, refusing to ask for more information. You say the sweetest things to me, Hitoshi answered back while smirking over his shoulder. Choke, was what Nito proudly stated back. Oh, and what should I cho dash? Hitoshi started with a raised eyebrow before he once again was interrupted. Absolutely fucking not. Izuku raged from the other end, the sounds of Momo and Mei laughing could be heard in the background. You two will not flirt when my precious and sensitive ears can hear. Absolutely not. Oh, Hitoshi stated once again, but I thought it would be good for you to hear this and get some ideas for when you see Todoroki again. The other side of the line was dead silent before a fuck yourself with a spoon was heard and the line was cut. Nothing could stop Hitoshi's and Nito's uncontrollable laughter. You know you're going to get it when we get back, right? Nito stated after regaining his composure. Yeah, but it was worth it, Hitoshi smiled back. On another note, we reached our destination a few minutes earlier than expected. What do we now then? Nito asked, confused. Now we wait. You're excited for this encounter, aren't you? Nito chuckled while choosing the spot right next to Hitoshi and making sure their shoulders were touching. Yes, he responded. I've been waiting for this one. The entire world gulped when they saw the menacing look and smile on his face as he waited for his target. If you asked Ida, he would tell you that every day he strove to be his best self. He would say how he stood for what was right and he would help anyone who was in trouble. He would tell you he was a hero. But even heroes have weaknesses. And his weakness, well, were dark alleys. Ever since Hosu, he hated alleys with a passion. He made it his mission to avoid them at all cost. And if it weren't for the competition, he would avoid the one right in front of him as well. But the world was watching, he was a hero, and he could not be seen avoiding something when cries for help came from said alley. A woman was screaming for help in the alley. If he took a second to actually think, he would realize that there were no civilians in the city and therefore, no one was actually in danger. If he took a moment to regain his composure, he would know that no one but him from the hero team was out and about and therefore, it couldn't be someone from his team that needed assistance. He should have thought but he didn't. All that was on his mind was his brother laying bloody and dying in a dark alley calling for help, and not knowing if anyone was coming. His body decided before his mind had a chance to think. I will help you, miss. He yelled out while rushing into the dark place without a second thought. He knew the moment he stepped foot in there something was wrong. 1. The sound of a woman screaming for help was suddenly gone. And 2. They were two figures standing at the entrance of the alleyway, preventing him from escaping when he turned around ready to flee. He was trapped. He walked into a trap. Well, Hitoshi spoke out. What do we have here? A hero? Nito pretended to ask. A hero in a dark alley at this time of night? No, that can't be a hero, Hitoshi carried on. A hero wouldn't mindlessly run into danger without taking precautions. A hero wouldn't charge straight in without at least calling for backup. Not a hero then, Nito pouted. Oh, so then a criminal. I am no criminal. Ida immediately intervened. I am a hero and I will bring you two into custody. Justice will be served for the actions you have taken today. He says he's not a criminal, Hitoshi spoke out again while slowly walking towards the boy. But I'm pretty sure criminals are the ones that break the law, aren't they? Well, yes, Ida started, his sense of justice so severe he didn't realize he was walking further into their trap. And isn't attempted murder against the law? Hitoshi turned to ask Nito. Well, yes it is. If anything, that would be considered more villainous than anything. I don't know what you're talking about, Ida stuttered out, realizing where this was going. Say, hero, have you heard about what happened to the hero killer? How Endeavor found him? You shouldn't know about that. Ida shouted. Oh, and you do? Nito spoke out instead, gray eyes gleaming with malice. Stop this at once. Midoriya clearly has rubbed off his unheroic ways onto you. Stop this. Both boys on the villain team immediately stood straight and glared at Ida with nothing but hate behind their eyes. Calling him unheroic is a bit hypocritical, don't you think? Hitoshi grunted out. That's it. Ida shouted, trying his hardest for the rest to not be aired to the world. You are under arrest. Come with me at once. Fat chance I'll listen to that order, Nito stated while taking a couple of steps back. Fine then, Ida replied before powering up his engines and yelling, "Recipro burst," and running straight towards Nito. However, his ultimate move was interrupted by Hitoshi, who quickly took out his gun and shot Ida in the places where his costume did not cover. Ida immediately yelled out, more in shock than pain, before abruptly stopping and dropping to the floor at the teacher's request, since if the bullets were real, he would be maimed. Think about touching him again and I'll shoot you 10 more times, Hitoshi raged out after quickly scanning over Nito, who reassured him with a nod. This is unheroic. Ida yelled again. However, before he continued on, Hitoshi crouched right above him and said what he had wanted to from the very beginning. Shut the absolute fuck up, he started. You don't get to shout about Izuku being unheroic when, let me remind you, he was the one who saved you in an alley that looked similar to this one. You're nothing but a worthless hypocrite. Pull your head out of your ass and realize that maybe Izuku is playing this part not because he wants to, but because he has to. And even if he wanted to, it's a fucking competition. He is not evil, he is not unheroic, he is not a villain. He is playing the game to win. And if he has a little fun doing it, I don't see why not. He's been through so much, and if he has to show the world what the consequences of their actions could be, good for fucking him. You call yourself a hero, but you're nothing but a disgrace. Now lay here and bleed out just like your brother almost did. After that, Hitoshi pulled out his gun once more, removed Ida's chest plate since the teachers were still telling him he could not move, and shot him in the chest at the places where Izuku told him would hurt the least. He was angry, but he wasn't a monster. As he and Nito started walking back the way they came, Hitoshi turned back around and met Ida's eyes one more time. Somebody saved your brother, he started, but no one is coming to save you. It's interesting the way the world works. At least now you'll understand what it's like to want someone to come and help you. To want someone to save you. But no one will ever come. Maybe you'll know for a few minutes what it was like to be us. We screamed for help, no one came. We pleaded with any superior power, no one answered us. We begged to be saved, no one saved us. Now die, and be grateful that this wasn't real. Because if it were, I would have made sure you could feel the pain we were always in. Die and be grateful this was just a competition. As Hitoshi turned right back around and made his way out with Nito, he could hear Ida's pathetic sobs coming from the alleyway. He should have cared, but he couldn't have cared less. After all, he wasn't responsible for his death, society was. If society didn't want villains, maybe they shouldn't have created them. All he was doing was showing them their creation. The whole "don't touch him" thing was really hot, was what Nito muttered as they were almost to their base. Of course it was, I said it. Hitoshi responded with a smile. Thanks, I guess, for having my back. There's a price to pay, you know, Hitoshi started. I want a reward. He loved the way the other boy's eyes widened and immediately looked down to his lips. You're out of your damn mind, Nito uttered out, gaze still locked on the purple-haired boy's lips. Maybe, he responded, but I will get my reward by the end of this competition, trust me. I wouldn't have high hopes for that, Nito responded, back to his grumbling and pretending he wasn't interested or intrigued while looking away. Don't worry, I'm a patient guy, Hitoshi smugly smiled back while quickly shoving Nito and running away. Get back here, you bastard, Nito shouted as he yelled after Hitoshi. No need to run after me, you can have me any time, Hitoshi yelled back, laughing harder at the way Nito immediately stopped running and started walking at the pace of a snail. For the first time in his life, Hitoshi was happy that he didn't have a heroic quirk. Because if he did, he would have never met his friends. Unheroic my ass, he muttered as he finally made his way into their home base. They should be lucky Izuku is still being nice and taking their mental health into consideration. Bakugo, he thought, I can't wait for Izuku to put you in your place. Absolutely fucking no. Aizawa screamed and jumped up while pointing at the screen in front of him. He's flirting, my baby is flirting, Yamada chanted while laying in a ball and rocking back and forth. Guys, it's teenage romance, it's normal, Midnight tried, but with Yamada's silent, I'm going to throw up and Aizawa's anyone but him, please, she knew it was going to be a long road ahead for that boy. Oh, for fuck's sake, she sighed. Great job, guys. Izuku and Mei cheered as both boys walked into home base. Momo also congratulated them, albeit quieter and much nicer. That was a rush on God, Hitoshi announced as he sat down in a chair near them. However, he was immediately smacked hard behind the head, and when he turned to complain, he saw Izuku standing over him. It was then he realized the comment he made earlier, and knowing if he said anything more he would get hit again, he could only offer an apology grin. I'm jealous I couldn't do it, Mei pouted, already upset that her role for the day was over. Izuku could only chuckle. So what's next? Nito asked, refusing to admit he was happy with the outing as well. Well, our next move is tomorrow at noon again, but we will only be targeting one person and only one of us will go. Really? Nito asked. Who? Izuku only turned his head and stared at Momo before everyone got the message. Me? She asked, confused. Who will I be targeting? And well, let's just say the moment she learned the person, she went into crisis mode. I can't, she stated while playing with her fingers. I really want to help but I can't. There's no way I can win. I'll just let you down, Izuku. Send someone else. I won't be able to win. I can't win. You can, Izuku firmly said. But Momo tried. You can win, Izuku firmly stated once more. Your quirk is amazing, but so is your mind. You and your quirk together are extremely powerful. You can win. I wouldn't put you up against this person if I didn't believe you could. But I can't possibly. Momo tried once more, trying to get him to understand. You can do it, Izuku stated. I will be close by just in case to ease your worries, but you won't need me. You can do it, I know you can. Momo wanted to disagree some more, but the look in her teammates' eyes made her realize that if she tried, they would just keep denying her. Oh, all right, I'll do my best, she announced, trying to be positive. The room erupted into cheers as she was suddenly drawn into several hugs. Izuku sat back and watched it all with a smile on his face. After all, he wasn't the only one hurt by society. His team was going to win the competition, of course, but first, they were going to taste what it feels like to take revenge. They would know how good it feels to realize that for once in their life, they were the powerful ones. Show them, Momo, Izuku thought. Show them all why the person matters more than the quirk. After all, this was a competition for sure, but he had a duty to make it realistic. And there was nothing more realistic than an underestimated person finally showing what they could do.